Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 127. John, but not forgotten. Thanks for that, and appreciate your title as always. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast here in the UK. Today we're going to be talking Lions All-Decade Team 2010 to 2019. I'm Matthew Turner alongside co-host Ryan McCluskey, Anthony Fitzpatrick, and joined by special guest Logan Lamorandier. I'm sorry I probably butchered that, Logan, but from Sports Illustrated All Lions. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. That title needed a bit more penis in it. We need an X-rated version.
This is a family show, Ryan. This is why I came up with said title.
It never has been.
No. If you're a Lions fan, you have to swear. Logan, I'm sure you'll agree. You've had a few things to swear about in your time.
That's right. Always something. Every week, finding new ways to lose. I feel like a few times a year. It's rough. So, if you're Lions fans, I give you props because you got some loyal blood in you.
Loyal blood runs through the veins of Detroit, 100%. Hello to Lions Rumble in the chat alongside all the rest of you guys in there. Say hello if you've got any questions for Logan as we go. That would be great. Just a bit of housekeeping to start off. Discord channel, College Football Podcast, like and sub. You know what to do. Lions Nation Unite, Twitch Prime, all of that good stuff. But we're going to get straight into our little interview with Logan to kick this off. And just to start with, Logan, just to kind of go into you to begin with, I guess, had the impression that you were like a kind of full-time Detroit Lions writer with the amount of content that you come out with, which is crazy. But you're a medical sales guy, right?
I am, yeah. The Lions have always been my passion, so it's always been something I've made time for and found time for. And when I started blogging, like 2013 now it was, yeah, I didn't know where it was going to take me, and I've just been along for the ride. And as I have 3 kids now, more family, yeah, it's tough to find a lot of time, but the passion's still there. It's just doing my research, and I'm big into stats. I really like the NFL draft. So those are the 2 things I really like doing, is just stats and draft. And, the news stuff is always fun. The quotes from players, it's good, but I like to watch the game, analyze the game, and dig into the stats. So yeah, I do a little bit of both.
So how did it all kick off? You said you started writing blogs. Was that just kind of like on your own website, or were you kind of volunteering for websites before you managed to get to SI?
Yeah. So when I first started off, believe it or not, I don't really like writing all that much. I like talking about the Lions. I actually started blogging just because I wanted to write more. I wanted to become a better writer, because everything in life, you need to be able to articulate yourself, and kind of, my emails, I'm reminded daily on Facebook, going back that, oh, here's a memory from 2010, and looking at my grammar and everything. Like, oh man. So in a way, it was just to start writing, and everyone told me, write what you're passionate about. So I was like, I'll write about the Lions. And that's kind of where it took me. Yeah. So it was just for blogs, and then kind of, bounced around. It was at Detroit Sports Nation for a few. Then I just created my own blog, and that was in, I think, 2015. And just did that for a few years. And then SI came along almost, I think, like 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years ago. I don't even know. And just continued doing what I love to do. So they've been really good to me and let me pretty much do what I want to do, which is awesome. So it's been a weird course, and it's definitely not very orthodox.
And correct me if I'm wrong. So you're a local guy, right? You went to Western Michigan to do kinesiology and exercise science, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah. So like, you've kind of been interested in fitness and that sort of thing for some time. Mm-hmm. Were you always a Detroit fan?
Oh yeah, always. Was raised in a Detroit Lions household. Every Sunday it was a big deal, and played football, loved football. Had a lot of friends who were all big Lions fans. And it was just kind of how I was raised. And then I actually moved out to Arizona after I got done with school at Western. And that's where I realized I just needed more Lions fans in my life. And that's where I kind of started going online and getting my Lions fix elsewhere, instead of just the family and my friends that I typically had back in Michigan to talk Lions. I had to kind of branch out and find other avenues.
Boys, some questions about Logan, perhaps?
How was it being a Lions fan in Arizona? Did you feel like you got a bit of sympathy, a bit of pity almost from the Cardinals fans? Was it hard to motivate across why you supported the Lions? Did it feel a bit lonely at times?
It did, but I actually found quite a few Detroit Lions friends out there as well, because Arizona, it's a very transient. Phoenix is. It's a lot of Midwestern people move there. And so there was actually quite a few Lions fans. But the Lions are playing in Arizona, I feel like, every single year. So in the 4 years I was out there, I got to see the Lions almost every year, it felt like. And so it was anywhere you go, whenever you say, hey, I'm a Lions fan, people generally feel bad for you more than anything. There's never like a hatred for the Lions. It's more so like, oh man, you'll get there eventually. Like one of these years, you guys, it's gonna be your year.
Okay,
we've
so
got a good record as well. Like I say,
yeah.
Arizona's been pretty good to us in the last few years.
Yeah, they have. They've been all right.
Brandon has a question in the chat. He says, Logan, how many problems with Bears fans in your family since you're on the west side of the state?
There are plenty of Bears fans because Kalamazoo is directly in between Chicago and Detroit. And so there is plenty of Bears paraphernalia, like if you go around places, but I didn't have it. All the family was Lions fans. Didn't have really anyone who went outside Detroit. They were all football fans, but they're all diehard Lions fans. And which is kind of weird. Living in Michigan, typically, it's considered a University of Michigan or Michigan State. Like college football is really big. But for whatever reason, my family was always about the NFL. I still follow college football and I root for both Michigan teams. I know that's taboo, but I still follow them pretty closely. But the Lions, they're the go-to, and that's what I look forward to every week, and that's what I've always been passionate about.
I know that Ant and Ryan were waxing lyrical about the Western versus Central game this year. I don't know much about college football, but that was a barnstormer, right?
Oh, we love some action. Thursday night action. It's a great league. It's really fun. It's so competitive as well. Like I say, the standard's not the best, but I think the level of quality throughout is pretty much on par. You get a lot of conferences where there's huge gaps, but anyone can beat anyone. Like I say, I've enjoyed watching the Broncos, like I say, and they've produced some good NFL talent the last few years.
But yeah, there's been a lot of pretty good players that come out of Western and even Central. They're pretty big rivals. And when I was going to Western, whenever that Western Central rivalry game was going on, it was pretty fun. It was a lot of fans come out of the woodworks for those games.
How about going back into your past as a Lions fan? Is there any kind of memories that you hold dear or detest because you've kind of lived through it? I know obviously the 2008 season is a kind of obvious kind of down moment, but is there maybe just a specific moment in time that you can think of through your childhood or college days?
Yeah, I think when I truly became a fan was when Barry Sanders, broke the 2,000 yard mark against the Jets. I specifically remember that was also to get into the playoffs, but just being around family and friends, I've never felt so invested in a game. And that's all I wanted to talk about, was for the rest of the week with my dad was just about that game. And I wasn't very old at the time. So I was pretty little and didn't really know what was going on. But that's when I really kind of realized, hey, I'm a Lions fan, and it's never slowed down since.
Fun fact, I have the one of one Barry Sanders 2,000 yard autograph.
Oh, man.
That's the only one of its kind.
That's amazing.
Collection.
Right, that's going to be worth an absolute fortune, mate.
It's a couple of £100. My collection is worth a small fortune of memorabilia, yes.
Yeah, keep it going. They
cool.
always increase in value.
I love that. You said you're a big draft guy, so maybe we can talk about the two drafts of this newest era so far. From 2021, just to remind everyone, Sewell, Onwuzurike, McNeil, Melifonwu, St. Brown, Barnes, Jefferson. How do you think those guys have kind of turned out so far? Even the guys that perhaps haven't had the best of years last year, are you seeing upticks with what you're hoping for them this year, or do you think it's a lot of hope and perhaps not expectation with some of these guys? How do you think they all did?
No, I think overall the class did well. Sewell did great. St. Brown really came on at the end of last year, and I think, I think he's going to be good. He's a very good player. If he's the type of player that he was the last 6 games. I don't know if he can really extrapolate that over a full season, especially with more targets to share this year. But I think he's going to be a really good player. And Onwuzurike dealing with the back issues, who really knows? It's tough to say what's going on. But I will say with this scheme that they're running now, I think it fits Onwuzurike and even McNeil. McNeil was a nose tackle. I loved McNeil in this draft, though. I think he was like top of the second round is where I would have been kind of had him ranked. So you look at his explosive ability at his size, and it's special. And so I think this more attacking defense the Lions are going to run, it should help both Onwuzurike and McNeil kind of live up or maybe just improve just from their play style, because that's kind of what they're due. They have that first step quickness, and they can use that to their advantage. So overall, here I am giving a long-winded answer like I usually do about the Lions. Focus back on track. Overall, I think it's a solid draft class, and I think it's where there should be. And you'd hope it doesn't always happen, but you hope these guys continue their improvement and kind of build upon a pretty strong rookie season from all those guys.
It's going to be music to Ant's ears. Ant, you were really high on McNeil as well, right?
Oh yeah, I loved him last year. We all have our particular draft crushes there, and yeah, he was one of them. So yeah, we're all on him here. Just speaking of though, obviously all of us who watch college football, and that we all have the one guy in the draft who we really want, and often we don't get them. But who was your guy this year, Logan? Is there someone that could go anywhere else? Who was the guy for you this year?
I had quite a few of them. So I typically have a few per round I kind of point out, but I really liked Kirby Joseph. And we got him. I just think as safety, to have an instinct, it's such an instinctive position. You can kind of overlook sometimes the 40 times and all the measurables. And I'm big on athletes, high-end athletes, but at safety, it's just something different. His 5 interceptions he had last year, I just felt like he was able to come down with jump ball situations, which a lot of times the receiver will win those. And he just made it look like he was the receiver in a lot of those situations. So Kirby Joseph, I will say he was on my list, and the Lions actually got him. So I was pretty happy with that. Trying to think of some other ones like that the Lions passed on. Can't think of any off the top of my head, but Kirby Joseph, he was at least on that list, and the Lions did get him.
So you were like them on Inside the Den when they were counting down the time to picking him there, just hoping he dropped and dropped and dropped.
Yeah, basically. And I think I even tweeted out, probably like 5 or 6 picks, I think, before they selected Joseph. I wanted either Leo Chenal or Joseph, because I didn't think Leo Chenal, the linebacker from Wisconsin, was going to be down that far either. But it kind of felt like the Lions didn't necessarily want that type of linebacker that Chenal was. So Kirby Joseph, he was my guy. I'm glad they got him, and hopefully he can continue developing, because he is a little bit inexperienced, only 1 year as a true starter. But when he was making flash plays, and that's what you kind of want to see. And typically those flash plays, if you can build upon that and become a more consistent player, you're going to be a really good player in the NFL.
So this draft class, just to run that down again for everyone, I know we've done this a million times in the last few weeks, but here we go again. Hutchinson, Williams, Pascal, Joseph, Mitchell, Rodriguez, Houston, Lucas. I guess Hutchinson was kind of always going to be the pick once number 1 happens, I think. And then I think you kind of see that Inside the Den. But I think Jameson Williams is perhaps the most interesting thing. I listened to you on the Kool-Aid cast where you kind of were like, you said, when the trade up happened, I think we all had this reaction of, oh shit, we're going for a quarterback. Like, how is this happening? Please don't make this be a quarterback. And you had a similar reaction, but was Williams your... Where did you have him ranked in terms of first round wide receivers? Was he up there for you?
Yeah, so he was actually, I want to say he was like my 11th player overall with regardless of position. So he was right around where I thought he should go. And then receiver, I think he was number 3 off the top of my head. But I think, I was thinking more Kyle Hamilton initially, because when they traded up, I just really felt like the Lions liked Goff enough where they weren't going to spend high draft capital on a replacement. But I was a little bit nervous in the back of my head, in the back of my mind, that they were going to take a quarterback. And we saw how the quarterback position played out in the draft. No teams are really too high on any of those players, we thought, especially Malik Willis. But Jameson Williams, he's just a guy, when you talk about elite speed, I think that word elite is just thrown around too casually sometimes because his type of speed is Tyreek Hill speed. It's something completely different than even fast players in the NFL. So I think that's going to be his big thing, and I'm looking forward to getting him on the field. I will say, and I did mention on the Kool-Aid cast that at the time I didn't really want to do any trade ups. I was more wanted to trade down. Just I felt like there was a lot of really good value in the middle rounds of this draft that could help the Lions fill a lot of positions. So we'll see how it plays out. It's going to be awesome to have a field stretcher that what like Williams is. But at the end of the day, when you're giving up a middle round draft pick as well, it just gives me pause a little bit because there was a lot of mid round players I like.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of depth in this draft, especially with a number of guys declaring after COVID. Sorry, Ant, you were going to say something.
I was surprised that you sort of picked on them, but did you have any sort of trepidation about this draft class in terms of, obviously, Jameson is just coming off an ACL, Mitchell is just coming off an ACL, Pascal is injured currently, his lower back, and I think we immediately think, oh God, Levi last year, he had a back issue as well. Is there any trepidation about the amount of injured guys they have picked up, or are you not too fussed about that?
Not all that much. The ACL tear is not what it used to be. Guys can come back from that, and for the most part, seem to bounce back well. So if the Lions find value and the Lions are at a point where they can take injured players and be patient with them, which I think the Lions played it right, and there's really not a whole lot of concern. Now, if there was certain players who consistently were injured throughout college, then you can label them injury prone. And for whatever reason, some bodies are just built a little better to hold up than other bodies. But I don't think Williams is necessarily injury prone or Mitchell's injury prone. And the one injuries that they do have, an ACL, it's a big injury, but it's not anything that I'm all too worried about. And the Lions need to take their time with them, put them on the PUP list to start the season. I'm fine with that too. Just make sure they're healthy when they come back, and they come back when they're truly ready.
One thing I want to ask about Jameson specifically is, so Goff may not long be for the team, right? After this year, cutting him isn't too financially terrible for the Lions, so it could only be one more year of him. It could be another 3, who knows? But Williams obviously an absolute burner and seems to, have everything in the route tree as well. So maybe this isn't too much of a concern. But as a burner, having someone who can throw him open over the top would be lovely. Do you think Goff can be that guy? I think we saw a flash or two last year of that, but he hasn't been consistent at that in his recent history. He was able to do it early on in the Rams, after his rookie season, he was able to do that. But do you think he can recapture that?
I think he can. You look at when he had Brandon Cooks, those were his best years when he had a true burner, deep threat. And you mentioned it too. At the end of last year, we saw seeing even Josh Reynolds have some downfield capabilities. And Josh Reynolds isn't, he's a 4.4, mid 4.4 guy. He's not an elite speed guy. So I think Goff, we haven't seen it a whole lot lately. I think he can find that deep ball, especially if he has a run game too and a good line that really protects him well and gives him a clean pocket. I think that's the type of quarterback Goff is. He does need help, some help around him, and he has quite a bit of that. So the accuracy downfield, I think Goff can be fine. I'm not saying he's going to be elite, but I think he'll be more than fine for Williams to put up some numbers when he does come back and he's truly healthy and the Lions aren't limiting him.
And all the way down this draft class, day 3, Mitchell, Rodriguez, Houston, Lucas. How do you fancy those guys? Do you think that there was value with those picks? Are you hopeful that they're all going to make this roster? Yeah,
so Malcolm Rodriguez, I think, he seems to be a lot of people's favorite late round pick, and he was mine too. He's just a really good athlete, good tackler, instinctive. He's 232 pounds, something in that range. So it's not like he's super small. There was other linebackers who went before him that are even smaller. Now his arm length is a bit of a concern because he has very short arms, and when you're matching up with big offensive linemen, if they get your hands on you, it's going to be tough to find, kind of get their hands off of you. But to me, I think he's instinctive enough, and you see it even on film where he's able to get around blockers despite his smaller stature. So he was the guy I like the best out of the day three is Mitchell. I like his upside too. I think he's in a good spot. He's almost like a forgotten man in that tight end group because he had that ACL injury. So I like where they got him at. James Houston, I go back and forth on that a little bit because he's a unique athlete in terms in his just versatility. But as we've starting to see in OTAs, they almost have a specific role for that type of player that Mitchell is. You know, you're seeing Julian Aquara, Jared Davis, and Houston all kind of line up in this hybrid role where they might be a Sam linebacker or an off-ball linebacker, and your base 4-3 when there's 3 linebackers on the field. But you hardly ever see 3 linebackers on the field anymore. But if they want another linebacker, they can put on the field, and in certain situations or sub packages, they can play him on the edge and let him rush the passer. And Houston should be able to do both of that. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. I think it's going to be a tough position to make the roster just because they have a lot of depth. And then lastly, Chase Lucas. I think he's probably more of a practice squad guy. If he can play in the slot, maybe that'll help him a little bit. But looking at the guys over him right now, it's kind of tough to see him being a sure thing on the 53. But we'll kind of see. I liked the player a little bit. He just was always very average whenever the film I watched. I was like, but you never know. He's older. We'll see what happens.
Just got a question in from KDV1991 on Twitch. He says, what other sports does Logan have an interest in? So just get away from the lines for a moment.
It's kind of funny. Like absolutely nothing. It's football. All I watch is football. And I used to be able to keep up with the Red Wings, the Tigers, and the Pistons, all of the other Detroit professional teams, but I just really haven't had the time to do so. And it doesn't help that none of them are very good. So it's not like I want to invest time, but it's really football. I only have, if I invested all this time that I invest in the Lions to any other team, I would not sleep at night. That's what I always say. So any free time I have, it goes towards the Lions.
You're probably doing yourself a favor. I've been getting into some of the other sports and they are awful. The Tigers are absolutely dreadful. The numbers are embarrassing. So I've given up on baseball. I'm glad I don't understand it. Hockey, hockey's getting there. Like the Pistons, the Pistons have got pieces. Like Sadiq Bey, he's up and coming. Like you say, they got Cade, they got the 5th pick in the draft. If they can bring back Bagley, maybe get DeAndre Ayton. There's a bit of hope in Detroit on basketball and football. The other two, let's just leave them be.
I'm just hoping for one of these Detroit teams to give us a bright spot or at least give us hope. And I think the Lions right now are providing quite a bit of hope for the future that they're going in the right direction. I think Brad Holmes and Campbell are going in the right direction, which is nice. It's a feeling that I haven't had in a while. So let's just keep it going.
So you say you haven't had it in a while. I know that this might be revisionist thinking because I feel like it has been a while for me too. But I kind of feel like I might have had this feeling a little bit in the second year of the Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia era. Well, the Bob Quinn era, because obviously they were offset by a year. But getting Patricia in after getting rid of Caldwell and Quinn having hit on Decker. And it just felt like the winds were changing at that time for me. And it scares me to think actually, no, I have had this feeling before, and I was utterly convinced we were going about it the right way. That the media had said that we got the consensus top picks at GM and head coach in that cycle, and that we were doing things the right way. We got the process right. How wrong I was, but did you not buy into them at all?
So I'm pretty skeptical when new coaches come in because as a head coach, it's so much different. Just because you're a good coordinator doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good head coach. So I try to keep an open mind with the head coach. And what started happening with Patricia is when they talked about versatility on defense, I really loved that. And then I saw the type of players they were bringing in that were supposed to be versatile. And that's when the red flags started going up a little bit when with the drafts that Bob Quinn was having under Patricia, just not prioritizing athletes, questionable guys that just fit a certain culture. And then when you saw, Quandre Diggs and Slay and certain players, the rumors that players weren't happy, that's when I felt like this might not be going in the direction you want. But yeah, there's always a little bit of optimism, especially this time of year. This time is all about optimism, and the team has no flaws right now. and then as the season goes on, yeah, you start realizing like, oh, how did we overlook this, or what happened here? So I don't know. Looking back at Patricia, that first year was rough because he had high expectations too, and he didn't meet those expectations. And then going into the second year after that, another draft, the free agents that Quinn brought in, I just was never really super thrilled with anything he did. I thought it was okay, but it was not like this, what I'm feeling with Holmes right now. Pretty much what Holmes has done right now is, I feel like, exactly how I would be going about things.
Question in from Brandon Kerr on YouTube. He says, Logan, have you been able to watch any Kentucky football from last year? I'm guessing perhaps watching Pascal, you may have done so. Do you have any thoughts on quarterback Will Levis, as he seems to be a dark horse for like kind of best quarterback this coming season?
Well, so I didn't watch, when I watch Pascal, it was a lot of defensive stuff, but I have watched a little bit just because he's a big guy. He looks the part, pretty strong arm. It's just a lot of issues that college quarterbacks typically have at, making the reads, going through his progressions and accuracy. So it'll be interesting. I typically don't really dive into the draft heavily until after the Lions season. That's kind of like my football fix after the season ends.
So like by December, you're all in on college football.
Usually it starts kind of at the end of end of November, early December, start really ramping up on draft film and going through there. But I always have guys on my radar because on Saturdays, if I get some time, I'll try to watch potential prospects for the Lions. But I'm pretty much an NFL guy until the Lions season. They're officially eliminated from the playoffs.
Just before we move on to perhaps talking about the prospects for the Lions this year, Dan Pask, the Lions' biggest fan, I'm convinced of this, he's on every podcast asking questions everywhere. It's insane. He says, does Logan think that Pascal will help Logan Stenberg come on this year? The Kentucky connection kind of helping things along. I mean, do you know much about the interpersonal relationships that these guys might have?
I don't. And it's always tough kind of quantifying intangible type of things like that. But, Stenberg was a team leader when he was at Kentucky, and then Pascal kind of came over and took over after Stenberg left. So I'm sure they have a decent connection. But as far as how much improvement we're going to see from Logan Stenberg just due to Pascal being around, I would think it's minimal, but who knows? Maybe it could really flip a switch or something crazy and it works out. But Stenberg, he's kind of in a make or break year for him. But OTAs, it looked like he was getting kind of at least being in the rotation, the early rotation for behind the starters. So maybe he's improved a little bit coming off, I think it was an MCL injury. So he got a ways to go. But the original question, I wish there'd be a lot of improvement, but I don't think it's going to be anything that you see on the field like, oh, this was Pascal's name written all over it. That's why Stenberg was so good.
I mean, if Stenberg gets on the field, something's gone wrong up front, which no one wants. So let's get a crystal ball out and look forward to this upcoming season. I mean, assuming every team is now set, we're going to cut our worst 37 players. We're down to 53. Game 1 starts. It was a schedule when it came out that people said, the Lions have got the weakest side of it as much as you can in the NFL. And then, of course, all the teams change. And suddenly Philly goes from this kind of plucky side with good pieces to, are they Super Bowl contenders? They might be one of the better sides in the NFC. And looking forward for the rest of the schedule, how are you feeling about how the Lions could do this year? Because for me, I feel like their range of win totals is vast, and it starts with momentum in week 1. And if you win that or lose that game, I think it could get you on the tracks or derail you pretty quickly.
Now, I agree that there's a wide range of outcomes I could see happening. I tweeted out, I think about a week ago it was, where I was just like, looking at the talent level, there's a lot of young talent, a lot of potential. but potential doesn't equal wins. And I think a lot of times as Lions fans, we get a little bit caught up sometimes in potential versus the type of player a certain player is now. So to me, I think 6 or 7 wins would meet my expectations due to the weaker schedule. If they go a couple games over that, all the way up to maybe 9 wins, that would be exceeding my expectations. But yeah, their schedule's fairly light. So I think the Lions can stay healthy, they get that run game going, which is going to be big for Goff. I think the offense can be pretty good. The defense, I still have a lot of questions on the defense, just up the middle mostly. Defensive tackle, how are your young guys, our year 2 players going to step up? Brockers, he's starting to look his age. Is he going to continue to decline, or is he going to have a bounce back year? And the linebacker, I don't think anyone really argues too much that the linebacker room is probably the weakest unit of this Lions roster. So expectations for me are right around 6 or 7 wins, and I don't think that's anything to be negative about. It's year 2 of a rebuild. Like it's going to be tough to expect playoffs in year 2 of a rebuild. So I'm 6 or 7 wins. Anything more than that, I'd be happy.
And how about Dan Campbell? Seemed to kind of come in and energize the team a little bit. I don't know if you felt that we overperformed last year, which seems crazy for a 3-13-1 team, but I think we competed in games maybe that we weren't expected to. But then there was some kind of iffy play calling and, interesting things happening there. Do you see improvement from him? Are you hopeful?
Yeah, I think as far as play calling goes, he made some interesting calls that would go against analytics. And I'm a big analytics guy. I think you need to be consistent, whereas Campbell went a lot with his gut, I just felt like at this point, this is what I should do. And he was very aggressive. I understand with the talent he was working with last year, you're probably going to have to be aggressive and you're going to have to hit on those decisions to win games. And so I'm interested to see how is he going to continue to go about that when he has a better team? Is he going to continue to be a big risk taker, or is he going to kind of scale it back a little bit and be more calculated and follow the analytics? So I think there are improvements with Campbell, and we don't know yet who's going to be the play caller, whether it be Ben Johnson or Dan Campbell. But those 2 last year, you kind of saw them clicking, and you hope that continues. So again, it's year 2 of rebuild. I want to see a lot of the younger players continue to develop, because I think that's always a sign of good coaching as well, is when you have younger players that get better on a yearly basis, and your team overall will improve when your younger players get better, especially with how young the Lions roster is. So that's the biggest spot I'm looking for Campbell to improve upon, is just decision-making, just the things that a head coach does that you can actually timeout usage and, challenges when he's calling that, even though he's not, there's usually people that help him out with that. But those are kind of it.
So I've got one question. So one question from a listener, and then I'll throw it open to Ant and Ryan while the other kind of listeners perhaps get in some questions. One thing that one of our writers wanted to ask you, and I thought I'd get that in now, is Ash asks, has a player shown the ability to be a tight end eraser on defense in camp so far? Last year we struggled a lot against tight ends, and our schedule this year, perhaps we're not facing the very elite of elite tight ends, but all the teams that we're seen to face have a tight end who could perhaps break a game, starting with week 1 and Dallas got it. Do you think that we actually this year have someone who can match up on a tight end?
So Chris Board is actually kind of a forgotten name at linebacker, and the Lions seem to believe in him quite a bit. And it was the under the radar free agency signing, more of a special teams player kind of early in his career, so that he could be a name. And then even Malcolm Rodriguez, yes, college level is a bit different than the NFL, and he's smaller, but you've seen small linebackers excel in coverage, and the athleticism's there. But as we've seen with plenty of, like Jared David is a perfect example, where even great athletes sometimes still have difficulties in coverage. I don't think there's going to be any tight end eraser on this team. That's just not how the Lions have constructed their roster. They haven't really prioritized or put a lot of emphasis on adding to the linebacker group. And maybe that's by design, or just how the dominoes fell in the draft, where they didn't necessarily feel like there was one that they had to have, or they didn't want to spend the money in free agency. At a certain point, I think they will invest in the position, but I think, unfortunately, it's probably just going to be a thing we have to live with for the linebacker play, especially in coverage. It's probably not going to be where we'd like it to be yet.
I was just going to ask about Brad Holmes. So we're talking about the team and where it is at this point in time now. Now, obviously, he comes from a Rams system where they're known for being aggressive with their picks in the draft, etc., trading them away. And I know when he first got here, he said he was probably going to be a little more restrained in the way he did things. Obviously, not a lot of draft capital and that to start with. But I mean, do you get the vibe sort of now this year heading into the second off season? Obviously, rosters are going to start getting cut soon. There's a lot of contract situations starting to come to light now. Do you get the vibe that Brad Holmes is maybe ready to loosen up on that and start going after established talent to mix with the younger guys, or do you reckon they're going to carry on playing it safe and just building through the young guys at the moment?
So I think after this year is when they'll start going in at, maybe trying to make some trades for some proven players, more just in free agency, looking to sign some bigger name players as well, giving out longer, bigger contracts. And in a rebuild, I'm really happy with what Holmes has done, because there was a lot of bad contracts on the books that Quinn handed out, and Holmes was left to clean that mess up, which hurts dead cap. The Lions had the most dead cap space in the league last year, and they had to clean all that up. And then now this year they have some bigger contracts that are still on the books, but looking at in the future, I think, it's everything's starting to come together all at once. With the young talent's going to be there with all the draft capital. These guys are going to be progressing, and it's going to be the time to start adding those free agents, the big name players, to really start making a run at things. And I think the Lions needed to be patient. Brad Holmes has been patient, and I agree with 100% how he's doing things. He's not trying to take shortcuts and get to be a mediocre 800 or 500 team right away, because then you're typically leveraging your future to do that. I think he's putting kind of saving up his chips to put them all on the table in year 3. So I'm really looking forward to next off season and just seeing what Holmes has up his sleeve, because he's pretty aggressive, and I do like that about him, that you can tell, even though he hasn't done a lot in free agency, I think in the draft we've kind of seen him be aggressive, and when he wants to do something, he'll make it happen.
So you think he'll hold fire this summer, you reckon, then?
Yeah, there'll be guys that will get cut, from teams maybe he'll bring in, but I don't think there's going to be any big splash signings or like long-term contracts. I think there'll still be plenty of, 1-year contracts that he could hand out at certain points if a certain player becomes available or gets cut. But the long-term contracts, unless it's one of their own, I don't see them making any more big moves.
Ryan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'll just say, the longer Anthony Barr waits, I would be tempted to throw a 1-year flyer at him, because like I said, the linebacker room does worry me. So I think the longer he waits, the less money he'll take. My question is, Aaron Glenn, I think everyone's resigned that either this year or next year we're going to lose him. So is it time to let Aubrey Present start calling plays towards the back half of the end of the year? Because he's pretty much going to be shooed in as hopefully the new defensive coordinator. He needs to get some experience in this year, would you say, if we're resigned to losing Glenn maybe next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to just have, Aubrey Pleasant start calling plays at the end of the year, but Glenn still there. But if Glenn knows he's on his way out, and we'll kind of see how the defense plays out, because I think the defense takes a massive step forward. I think, Glenn will probably be gone. But with Pleasant, it'd be nice to have him start calling plays. I just don't know if that would happen. Maybe he can give a little bit more input, or they can try to groom him. It just really depends where the Lions are at the end of the season as well. If they're pushing for a playoff spot, I'm sure they're not going to be wanting to kind of experiment either with their DB coach, call them plays. So in an ideal world, that would be nice, but I don't know if it necessarily happened.
Just perhaps one last question here before we wrap up, which is just, we're going to do our all-decade team 2010 to 2019 after we finished here. Do you have a favorite player from that era? I think maybe Megatron is too easy, so we'll take him out of it. Apart from Megatron, who's your favorite player from the previous decade?
So it was Golden Tate. I liked Golden Tate a lot before he even came to the Lions, just because he just did things. Once he had the ball in his hands, he was special. A lot of fun to watch. I'd never seen a player like him just set defenders up to miss. It was crazy. He would do one little juke move, or just get the defender's body in a horrible position, and then he'd just go the other way and make him look silly. So I always enjoyed watching Golden Tate. I think he was really undervalued in the eyes of the league. Lions fans all, they got to see him every week. He was really good, but it's just because I don't think he was necessarily that big or didn't maybe put up huge yardage numbers. But I don't think there was a player better than him with the ball in his hands, after he caught the ball. So he was always a lot of fun. I liked kind of how cocky he was too, and the celebrations. that was good.
Yeah, love to see that, especially a certain overtime flip into the end zone touchdown comes to mind for sure. I'm sure everyone knows where to find you already, but why don't you just remind us where we can find you and your stuff?
Yeah, so on Twitter, it's at L Lamorandier. It's a long one, but you just type in Logan, usually it'll pop up. And you did pronounce my last name right, by the way. It was the French way to do it, because it is a French name. But and then on Facebook, you can go to Detroit Lions Lion Lowdown. That's kind of my page there as well. And then SIL Lions, just Google it. It'll be there.
Fantastic. Just want to thank you so much for your time. Really interesting to talk to you, and hopefully we get to talk to you again in the future.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks ever so much.
Have a great evening.
Later, guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. You too.
All right. There he goes. Logan Lamorandier. I'm not going to get it wrong when you go now. Lamorandier.
Should have waited.
I should have
There
waited.
it is.
But we're going to dig in now to the news, and the really, really sad news to start, that kind of not friend of the pod, because he has no idea who we are, but favourite of the pod, nose tackle John Penasini has retired. The 2020 6th round pick played through most of his Lions career with injury, including calcium deposits. Last season, the size of a softball, several places on his body, which is, horrific. Was unable to lift his arms beyond the point of his shoulders, which must have just been horrific pain. And I don't think ever really showed it on the field that he was in some sort of trouble. Just went out there every day, gave absolutely everything on the field. And for someone who didn't come in highly valued, thought of as maybe someone who was going to struggle to make the roster for 2020 and 2021, he started and played in a really high number of games, sometimes due to injury, but just because the guy came in a two-gapping system which would naturally fit him and produced week in and week out. He wasn't flashy, but he came what he did, did what he came to do, boys.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Ryan.
It's sad. He probably played more games than he should have. He's probably been contemplating retirement for quite a while. Like I say, the amount of pain or painkilling injections he must have needed to play, the level of physio that he'd have needed, a masseuse before or after the game, just to be able to even kit up and pull his pads on over his head. Because if you've got calcium deposits in your shoulders, getting your pads on, from what I know, must have been pretty important and must have been really painful for him. So he is a proper warrior to put that aside and suit up for those 1.5, 2 years. So I commend everything he gave to the Lions. If he's able to ever get any treatment or clear them up, he'll be welcomed back with open arms. Like I say, he's got a lot of time and life ahead of him, but he's taken the opportunity to protect his body. Like I say, don't drag it out longer than it needs to be. Don't punish your body, because he's still a young man. So it's a real shame.
Yeah, I mean, a lot is made in the media about, how players mess around with teams and, their behavior and stuff like that. But this hearing is an example of how a team screws a player over and screws him over royally, particularly our last regime. I'm not going to say his name because I hate him to high heaven, but, Jeff Okudah was forced to play through injury, and look what that's done to him. John Penasini was forced to play through injury by a coach who, just didn't give a damn about them and only cared about himself. And for him to be able to come in his rookie season as a 6th round pick, gradually increase his snaps as the season goes on and impress people in the process whilst he's injured to that degree, says a lot about the player that you've got. You know, it's the exact type of player you want, the mentality, the grit, the determination. And it's just a shame, really, that, you know, the previous regime may have just done for him. You know, too much damage has been done. He's in a lot of pain. And it's really sad because, like I say, he's the exact type of player that you want on this team. A depth player who's going to give his all for you. He's going to be very valuable in certain situations. And now there is a hole to fill in his absence. And, you know, this explains why I think they went after Demetrius Taylor very early in the draft process. They were all over him, you know, looking for a new nose tackle possibly there. They've bought Kaminsky in. This is obviously something that they've known about for a while now, and they've just been waiting for him to announce it. And yeah, it's sad as anything. And, you know, I just wish him all the best for the future. Because, like I say, he's the exact sort of player you want on this team, and it's just such a shame that injuries done for him. So all the best for you, John, and sorry about what the fat so and so did to you. You didn't deserve that.
Yeah, 32 games played in Penasini's career, all 16 games in all 2 seasons, 12 starts, all in 2020, 1 pass defended, 1 fumble recovery, a sack, 49 tackles, including 23 solo tackles and 26 assisted, 4 tackles for a loss, a quarterback hit. And what's that? AV, approximate value per Pro Football Reference of 5 in his rookie year as a 6th round pick, which is exceptional for someone who's really not expected to see the field as a 6th round pick. So that was really, really great. I actually DM'd him as us on Twitter and just said, you know, wish you all the best, and, you know, sad to see you go and whatever. And he liked it. He didn't reply, but like he'd seen the message, took time to actually heart the message, and I thought that was nice. So all the best to John. Brandon Kerr had a message actually for Logan before he went, but I was in the mix of actually saying goodbye to him. So he said, why don't you just address it now? So I will do. He was talking about Golden Tate, and Brandon said, does Logan think that Amon-Ra can be our next Golden Tate? Boys, what do you reckon? Because I definitely see similarities.
Yeah, similar traits there. Undersized, a bit light, does his best work, yards after the catch. Once he gets the ball in open field, then tries to make people miss. Elusive, hard to bring down. So you can see those traits there in his play style and in the body style. Amon-Ra's probably a bit bigger, if anything, a bit stronger potentially. So he's got the potential to put up some good numbers, but playing that style. Slot, work his way in out. So I think it's a good comparison.
I think Amon-Ra is more versatile, though. They use him out the backfield as a running back, which we didn't really do with Golden. I know you use them on the sweeps and that, but they may be a similar player over the years. But as sort of Logan was saying, the ability after the catch with his hands and that is something that very few guys can replicate. So I don't think you'll see a like for like swap with him. I think you'll see some players where you go, oh my God, it is him. But I think Amon-Ra will be his own person. He'll be a very good receiver for us if he carries on developing as he is. But we'll use him in a lot more. I think we may grow to love Amon-Ra even more if he develops right. Because like I say, you use him out the backfield, you use him in the slot, you use him out wide, you can use him here, there, and anywhere. And if he realizes his potential, then sky's the limit for him, really.
KDV 1991 says in response to the retirement, does it make it either Taylor or Cornell a near lock to make this team now?
I think it makes Taylor a lock. I think that's why Taylor was one of the first guys they went after during the pro day process. They were all over him there, interviewing him, doing individual workouts with him, and he was the first guy to sign on as a UDFA when the draft was done. So the love is there for him. You know, he can play at nose, but more critically, he can play all along the line. So he has the versatility that they value so much. He can play on the edge, he can play at 3-tech, he can play at nose tackles. So I would expect him to go in there and beat Cornell out. Because I know we had this discussion the other day about Cornell, but for me, he's blown his chance, and I'm just not interested now. He had his chance last year. He got done for substance abuse, and I'm past that now. You see what a guy like Penasini comes in and does, grafts his ass off to get his opportunity and gets in there. That's the type of player you want in there. I don't think Cornell's shown that.
I'm surprised Cornell's come back, actually. When you got done on that rookie year, those 6-game ban, we were pretty much saying he doesn't fit Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell won't accept that. We were all thinking that he'd be cut pretty instantly. So I'm pretty impressed he's managed to work his way back into the fold. So he must have shown a level of maturity. So I think Cornell has probably got a good chance to make the practice squad. Like I say, he's got a battle with Kaminsky for that potential third rotation for the defensive line. But like I said, it does leave a gaping hole in. So these guys have now got a big chance.
Let's move on to talk about Inside the Den. Obviously, since we last talked, episode 4 dropped, detailing the behind the scenes in this year's draft. Did anything stand out for you guys about what we saw? It was a masterpiece of television. I really am looking forward to Hard Knocks because the content's going to be fantastic. But did you guys see anything from this and think, yeah, fuck yeah? You know, I got really pumped.
I just wish they'd not released it at 1 a.m, so I was about to go to bed, and I'm like, oh, God's sake, well, I obviously can't go to bed now. I've got to stay up and watch it. So, but no, like you said, it was really good. I mean, you don't know how much you could, sort of the reactions and that you can believe into, because obviously all this stuff's edited and that, but, the feeling that you get is they got the players that they wanted pretty much all the way down the board. There seemed to be unanimous, agreement on most of it. And when it came to the day 3 picks, there was a lot of trust placed in some of the specialist coaches to get them there. So you kind of feel promise. We trust them with rookie development. The rookies developed really well last year. They landed on them, so you'll trust them again this year to do so. So, it was fun though, I must admit, just seeing all the draft stuff. You can't help but get hyped about it all. I think just the whole thing you got quite hyped by, but obviously it's up to the rookies now to start showing it on the pitch to back that up.
I think this is like the dawn of a new era for the Lions. If I go back 4 or 5 years ago, I don't remember seeing this stuff, inside the war room, the reactions. We've always been very private, like I say, under the previous ownership. But now it seems like we're kind of like emerging from this chrysalis. We're getting the fans a bit more insight. We're getting more reactions, more highlights. We're getting a bit more of what we deserve. Like I say, some fans get shut out of their teams. And I felt like going back 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, we were probably one of those fans that didn't know everything going on behind closed doors. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I say, the tension you felt when Chris Spielman was watching New Orleans. Like, I think they're going, like, say, if they're going to pick Jameson Williams, and then they don't, and then they make the call to make to Kwesi to confirm the trade, and you felt that collective sigh of relief. We've never been given that kind of stuff before, so it's quite special. It's really nice to see what happens to go through the process, and like I say, I can't wait for Hard Knocks. For every other team, I've always thought it's a distraction. But when expectations are tempered right now for us, and we just want to have a good second year, I think it can actually do wonders for morale, and it's going to be really interesting to see. And if you go back a few years ago, I would have absolutely hated the thought of it. I would not have wanted to see Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia on Hard Knocks. No one wanted that ever. But Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, and Spielman, yeah, I can't wait to see them.
I mean, they're just going to unashamedly be themselves, aren't they? Like, they're already used to cameras being in their face, so they're not going to act any differently.
I did kind of like the smirk on Brad's face when he pulled off the trade as well. He knew he fleeced Kwesi, and he was just like, pleasure doing business with you, almost like he's sounding trying not to laugh. He's like, yeah, see ya. He's took it, phone it in. It's like, I still can't believe Kwesi made that deal. Vikings fans can go on all day long about how they, did all right out of it. But sorry, boys, you got Brad Holmes. You really, really did.
I mean, the thing is, everyone loses when they trade up. And I kind of almost do subscribe to that mantra. The thing is, it's not about whether you, on average, got the better of the trade. It's, did you get the absolute most you could from the trade? Because even if the Vikings got the slightly better end of that deal in terms of they got an extra player and that's worth quite a lot, but in reality, that pick should have been worth a lot more. Like, we fleeced them in getting them to come down to a trade where it was questionable. Like, everyone who trades up gets fucking ransomed, and we didn't. And that's the win for me.
Yeah, there's been some very questionable trade-ups in years, and we won't be on that list of them.
No, we will not. Just finally, obviously mini camp happened very recently this past week. Have you guys heard anything coming out of that you're quite interested in? That's notable to you guys?
Jeff's looking good. All aboard the Jeff hype train. He looks like he is hopefully going to be ready for week 1. Preseason may be a stretch, but he is looking good. He's working out on his own. He's running. He's backpedaling. He's doing the drills. He's putting in the extra work. Like, I think this is going to be the year where everyone gets proved wrong, including myself, even to that respect. Like I said, I had doubts when we took him. I was worried after year 1 and year 2 of the injuries that he may never come back, but he looks hungrier than ever.
I just want this offense to hum, because there's so many guys on our offense who are getting disrespected to levels they shouldn't be. I mean, it's Swift at the minute. He seems to be the one who's bearing the brunt of everything at the minute. People acting like that he's now not a top 32 running back, that he's no good. It's like, well, man's had 2,000 yards in 2 years when he's been injured a lot of the time from scrimmage. You don't get that from being a bad player. Obviously, TJ is, we're waiting for him to break out again as well. Goff is the big one. As much as I like the coach spiel about him looking better, everything's crisper and going on. Obviously, this is just mini camp and we need to see it on the pitch, but at least the indications are good. Because I do remember last year, a lot of people are out saying, "Oh God, Goff looks horrendous. He's making some bad throws. It's not good." You've not had that this year, so you can tell the reporting's objective, and objectively, it has been quite promising about him so far. So I just really want this offense to hum, because it can be a top 10, top 12 offense in this league quite easily if the guys are healthy and playing well. You just want the guys to get that recognition. So, yeah, you're hearing decent bits so far, but again, it's just the off season and a lot can happen. There's a lot to go yet.
Quirky Zerky says on Twitch, Rule the Lions, the win for us was that we didn't give up future draft capital. That's usually where teams get fleeced, because they give up future picks which are devalued in the current draft. Absolutely right. Still 2 firsts next year. We can pretty much do whatever we want. I mean, in the Arsenal, we've got all the first round picks you like to move up if we want to. So
I don't think we've traded away anything next year. I think we've got all our picks next year. Have we not?
Yeah, I think we've got everything.
We've got everything as far as I'm aware.
I think so. Dan asks, when was the last time you felt comfortable in one running back? I think the answer for me is never.
Never. I'm not comfortable one running back in this system. This is a collective unit who are going to be good.
But just in general, in your fandom, have you ever felt comfortable with one running back?
Reggie Bush was the last back we had that could do everything for me. But we got him.
I don't know.
We got him in that year that was a twilight year. Like you say, we didn't get the best of him.
Javid Best before injury. You were legitimately excited to watch him play and the plays he could make. You were very happy with him, but again, you knew that you were getting an injury-prone player, and sadly that did for him. But I genuinely looked forward to it then.
I think the thing with Swift that we all very conveniently forget, but I will remind everyone of what was being said at the time last year for Swift, was Swift did have an injury through the season, sat out a couple of games, but came back, and then was injured at the end of the season. And we all said, no, Swifty, we need you in year 3. Just, even if you're 90% and you could suit up, let's shut you down, let's get you ready for 2022, because that's where we're going to compete. This season's already gone. Don't worry about it. And now we get here as, he doesn't play through injury. I mean, there's a bit of revisionist history going on with DeAndre Swift. I mean,
he's done no but play through injury. That's all he's ever done, is play through injury.
Yeah. I mean, I am one of the guys who has been talking about the fact that I would be okay with trading him. I'm not saying that I'm the sort of homer who's DeAndre Swift all the way. I am wearing his jersey, though. Like, I do really like the guy, and he was our entire offense the first 5 or 6 games of the year. Let's not forget. Like, TJ, apart from the first couple of games, hadn't done much. Swift carried us on his back at the start of last year.
And Cephas.
But
when Deuce is coming out saying he's teaching him to play through pain and not injury, I mean, that shows there that he's been playing through pain. And he's maybe not been dealing with it as well as Deuce thinks he can. But the fact that Deuce is saying that, is like, he's telling you he's been playing through injury. So it's like that's rubbish about him not being able to play hurt or anything like that. And you know, he's a good dual threat. No one talks about his dual threat ability. Everyone goes on about the dual threat running backs in this league. No one talks about Swift in that vein, but he was one of the best receiving backs last year, full stop, period. Don't care who you say, he got a lot of yards, and people might say, yeah, the garbage time yards and that, but they're still yards, they're still catches. I mean, that one against the Rams wasn't garbage time yards, that was a bloody good one. So, again, I just feel like he's getting very disrespected now, but we're going to need to work by committee this year. Committee worked last year to a degree. It started getting there, and committee will work this year. You've got your two main guys in there, and you've got Reynolds and Jefferson backing them up. That's a very good running back room where they can all be utilized properly. So there's no reason why this running back room can't work well this year, especially now the offensive line is fully fit. That was the big thing last year. It was never fully fit and playing together. This year, it's going to be so much better for them running behind that lot.
For you guys listening on the audio podcast, you're missing a thing of beauty on the video stream. I urge you to go and see, because it's Hank time on the pod. He's in the house. We all love Hank, so good to see him back on. Question from Dan. He asks, do you agree with where Kenneth Walker III went this year? Went to Seattle, obviously. Do you think that was about the right place for him?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
I think he's overrated, I think. Great at college level. I am not convinced he will have the impact that he had at Michigan State in the NFL. He's gone to the right spot. I'll give him that. He's gone to the right team where he'll get an opportunity, because all their running backs are totally crocked and frauds. So he's landed in a very good spot. I'll give him that. And the Seahawks are about to have a rebuild, so he's got some patience. So he couldn't have landed in a better place for him, at least.
I disagree. I think he's going to do incredibly well. I mean, forgetting last year, some of the defenses he came up against were pretty decent. He single-handedly ripped apart Aiden Hutchinson and Michigan by himself behind an offensive line that wasn't great. Let's put it that way. You go back and watch the highlights of that game. There's something special there in him. And, I think he's going to do great there because, I mean, did you see that picture of Carson's neck the other day? That was fucking gruesome. You see all the metal that's in it and that.
Yeah, it's
rough. Like he's not going to be there much longer. And Rashad Penny is a slip on the floor away from injury. You know what he's like. He will get injured. So he's going to have lots of opportunities there. I think he'll flourish. They've invested in their offensive line. Finally, they've not got a great quarterback, so they'll need a running back who's good and can take on a lot of a load. I would expect him to surprise a lot of people. I think you'll hear a lot more about him than you will Breece Hall and the others who got drafted.
Quiz question for you. Don't look at the YouTube chat. The Lions do not have all of their picks next year, but why?
Right, let me think about this. This is probably... Oh, hang on. Didn't Brockers have a 2023-7 in his deal? I'm not looking, by the way.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that before because I thought there is a 7th for Brockers, and I'm thinking it's not this year because we gave the 7th away for for busted wide receiver Benson.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Yeah, Brockers was the guy. Right, let's move this on to our main segment of one which may not be the happiest time we've ever had, but we are going to do it anyway. We are going to do it. It will struggle.
I did advertise doing a bus team instead because it would have been a lot more competitive. But Matt goes, no, we've got to be positive.
Well, we don't have to be positive, but it is something that you've preached all along, and I didn't want you to go against your principles. I've got to protect you from yourself sometimes, then.
I know, but in fairness, could you imagine doing a bus team for us over the last 10 years? It would make for some great debate.
It'd be easier to agree on a worse team of the decade than a better one, I think, because I think we're all going to definitely disagree on some of these players.
Oh, yeah, no, it'll be harder to do a worse team because there are too many candidates for the worst team. The better team, some of these are like no-brainers for the best team. And it's depressing.
Right, well, let's start off with the offense. In fact, let's start off with the rules. So, no one's disagreed with me on this, so I'm running with it. The offense is going to be an 11 personnel system just for ease. So, quarterback, running back, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and then your offensive line. Defense, no one disagreed with me to begin with, so I'm running with this too. 4-2-5 scheme, 3 cornerbacks, 2 linebackers, which is going to make me very sad when we get to cornerback. But because teams play the majority of the snaps in nickel, and I think that was probably true even then, maybe it was more 50-50, I don't know. But what do you think? Should we go for a third linebacker or a third corner?
No. Our linebacker group has never been that good. I could only name so many good linebackers.
Ryan, you wait until we get to linebacker and corner, and you tell me if you want a third linebacker or a third corner.
I just want to apologise to a friend of the podcast, Jason Kaminda, that Matt thinks his position is irrelevant. So sorry, Jason. Not our decision. This is all on Matt.
It is irrelevant.
So you're saying you want Nick Borden on the team?
Wow. Mind you, Jason's been here in the 2010s, hasn't he?
No?
I didn't have a...
No.
No, yeah, no.
2020
I didn't have a fullback in my current 53, so I'm not worried about one in last decade either.
Well, to be honest, we're probably better off taking a fullback than a third linebacker. So, that just shows the state of some of this.
Dan's asked a question about DeAndre Levy. We will get there, Dan. We're going to start off with the offense, and we're going to start off with quarterback. I've only got one name.
There's no one else worth naming.
Dante Culpepper. No.
Sean Hill. He started
Brad Kaya. See,
this would be a perfect one for a bus team of the decade. Can you imagine like Chase Daniel going up against Dan Orlovsky and Sean Hill? Jesus Christ.
Was Dan Orlovsky in the 2010s, or was he in the...
Yeah.
Was he?
Dan was in the 2010s.
I felt
very early, I think.
He had a couple of stints. Did he have a couple of stints here? I'm sure he had a couple of stints.
Was John Kitna right at the start of the 2010s, or was he very late 2000s?
I think he was late 2000s, but I'm not...
Oh, quickly, do it to humour me. Who was the worst one in the 2010s? Out of them all. Yeah.
I mean,
see, this is why it's difficult.
But what's the qualifier for worst? Because there's plenty of quarterback threes
by their play.
Name. Do you
by their play, it's like Chase Daniel was garbage. I'd put Chase Daniel up there because he was pure and utter garbage.
Yeah, Chase Daniel for me. No, in fact, no, hang on. Chase Daniel, was he with us in the 2010s?
Yes.
No.
No, 2020, 2021.
I thought it was 2019.
2 years.
It was only 1 year, wasn't it?
2 years, 2020, 2021.
No, balls.
So he was with us last year, wasn't? No, he wasn't with us last year.
No, he wasn't.
19
Just
and 20.
2020.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh.
And the one before him was no better. And I can't remember his no longer.
KDV 1991 says Matt Castle.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess that's checkmate there.
So Chase Daniel 2020 only.
Oh.
Dan Orlovsky 14 to 16. Jesus, that's later than I thought.
Yeah.
And also 5 to 8. 2005 to 2008. I was sure he was one of the quarterbacks in the 08 season. So that's what I was thinking of, but he did come back for a second season.
It was not pretty.
Right. We're all agreed.
We're alluding away from the one quarterback that we can only choose.
Okay. So we are all, of course, dancing around the best quarterback, I think, without question, the Lions have ever had. Matthew Stafford. 182 career games, 165 with the Lions in 12 years, 74-19-1, 3,898 completions, 45,109 yards, 282 passing touchdowns, 144 interceptions. His career stat line, are we all agreed on Matthew Stafford?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Right, running back. This one's going to be a bit more interesting. Only one being chosen here. The people that I have shortlisted are Javid Best, 2010 to 2011, Mikael LaShaw, 2012 to 2013, Reggie Bush, 2013 to 2014, Joik Bell, 2012 to 2016, Theo Reddick, 2013 to 2018, so the longest tenured guy in this list, and Kerryon Johnson, 2018 and 2019 in these years. I'm sorry to put him in, but his rookie season was very good.
I suggested that because
his rookie season was very good.
Hmm.
Who are we feeling, guys, in this list? Because there's 3 guys who only played 2 seasons. In fact, there's 4 guys who played 2 seasons in this list. And then Joik Bell played 5 seasons. Theo Reddick played 6 seasons with the team. I don't know if longevity factors into this as much as elite play for any one year.
I think you have to go best play, don't you, rather than tenure here. I don't think tenure can really be taken.
Theo Riddick only played on third downs, basically, for those 5 years. He was basically, when we were stuck behind the chains, he was just a pass catching back. I'll say Reggie Bush. I think he's the best of that caliber. Like I say, when we got him, he had that really good year.
See, I get that Reggie had the big season there, but there was just one. Joik Bell had a couple more years, at least with some decent productivity in them. I'd put my vote to Bell, but I will defer unless Matt's going to tie break this, but and for the audience, I did suggest Zach Zenner because he's idle. No. Matt said no. Matt absolutely refused to put Zach Zenner in.
I love Zach Zenner, but there's absolutely no way you can be considered on a list of best Lions running back in the 2010s. It's not happening. Reggie Bush for Detroit, 25 games, 299 rushes, 1,303 yards, average of 4.4 per click. 1,000 yards season in that first year. 14 games, 223 rushes, 4.5 yards per carry with 4 touchdowns. Only 4 touchdowns.
Is it classed as was it a 1,000-yard season? Because I was under the impression that when Kerryon went for it, they were saying Kerryon would be the first Lions running back to get 1,000 yards in forever.
Since Reggie Bush in 2013. Yeah.
Oh. So.
Yeah. But then Joik Bell, his career with the team, 63 games, 561 rushes, 2,235 yards, 4 yards per carry. His best season,
I think it was like 700
2013
yards
and
like
2014 were both pretty good. But 2014 marginally better. 15 games, 223 carries, 860 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So not quite as many yards, but almost double the touchdowns.
See, he worked Reggie Bush out the team technically. They worked as a tandem, but they went with him. So that's kind of why I was like, well, hang on, he was sort of good enough to force him out. And he had some decent productivity here. That's why I went with Bell. But
yeah, so
you've got a tiebreaker.
I'm going Joik Bell. It is longevity as well as production. The production wasn't far away in the best year, and he lasted a hell of a lot longer. Comments in the chat. Steve-O says that list of RB hurts. Damn. Quirky Zerky says, have you considered Bo Scarborough or Jason Huntley? Steve O says Theo played 5 seasons and rushed for less than 1,000 yards combined. Steve O says you got to go Bush because he's had a 1,000-yard season. Brandon Kerr says Javid Best for me. I'm going Javid Best. He is our running back of the decade. Let's move on to wide receivers.
Javid was the most talented. I think innate was the most football talent. I think Javid was the best. It was just injuries that did for him. If he'd have had 2 or 3 healthy seasons, he'd be ahead by miles.
Yeah. All right. Wide receivers. We are picking 3. Doesn't have to be a slot-only guy to be that third guy, but just 3 wide receivers we're picking. I've shortlisted 5. They are Calvin Johnson, 2007. I'll get started again. 2007 to 2015. Nate Burleson, 2010 to 2013. Golden Tate, 2014 to 2018. Marvin Jones, 2016 to 2020. Kenny Golladay, 2017 to 2020. 5 wide receivers, all of which did really good things in a Lions jersey. What do you make of all of those guys, boys?
Marvin Jones Jr., my second favourite player of the decade. I can't not see him in it. I was so sad to see him go. He was wide receiver 1 on this team when the injuries piled up. He was such a good servant. The high point, he was fantastic. Like I say, he carried the team. He put the team on his back when he helped. He never, if he got sat down for a few plays or if he didn't see the ball coming, he never complained. He didn't eat much money. He was never bothered about money. He was such a good servant to Lions. I have to see him in this team. Like I say, for me, he's one of my favourite players to suit up for a very long time. Great, he embodied everything about Detroit, good family man. And he's still doing it now. He'd still play on this team now if he was still here. He'd still be good enough to wide receiver 2 or 3, I think. So for me, I'd love to see him.
See, this is tough because you could put all 5 of them on. I mean, because for me, I'd love to see Golladay on there. And I know, you know, people might not agree with that, but people forget he came in, he had a good rookie year, then he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He was great for us, especially when it came to contested catches. Probably after Calvin, he was the second best when it came to going up and getting the ball and being competitive and been a game changer for us. Because I remember when we got him and we paired him with Tate, all of a sudden, you know, we had a dynamic duo in there with these two guys. And I know all that's happened since with the money and that, and you know, it's a valid point, but don't forget, Golladay, when he turned down the contract from Bob Quinn, was aiming for a third year to get the elitist of the elite money. And if he'd have had another 1,000-yard season and put it up, he'd have deserved it, quite frankly, here, the way he was playing. So I don't hold that against him. And like I say, just as a contested catch guy, he was one of the best out there. So, but then obviously I don't not want Nate to be on there either. Nate's got to be on there. I mean, they've all got to be on there. Really,
you have three votes.
This is gonna hurt. Well, obviously we're putting Calvin in, aren't we? So
Calvin, Marvin, and Kenny for me. I don't like Kenny the person. I never liked him. He gave up on the team because I think he was not going to play through injury because he was trying to protect his career, which I understand. But I didn't like the person.
You didn't like who?
Marvin and Calvin. Kenny Golladay, the person. Right. Never liked him.
So you're not choosing Golden Tate?
No, I'm not.
Oh, right. So I'm going Calvin, Tate, Golladay.
Wow.
And it hurts me not to say Nate Burleson and that, because I love Nate Burleson. I love Marvin Jones, but again, a bit revisionist here. When oh God, who was it? When Golladay went down injured in his last year, he went down quite early. Marvin could never step up to be wide receiver one. I remember a period, and I criticized him when it was coming up to, I think it was the Thanksgiving game. He went 6 or 7 games where he did precious little for us in relief of Kenny. But then he balled out and finished the season amazingly well. But for me, there's just that little thing preventing it. But that doesn't mean I don't love him. Doesn't mean I don't love Nate. But I think Golden was just one of a kind of what he was, of who he was. Megatron definitely was. And again, Kenny, I just loved what Kenny did for us. Kenny never did this team wrong. And he battled incredibly hard, and he made some really, really good plays from us. Even as a rookie, he came straight in and made his mark. So yeah. So
one name that Brandon wants to throw in the mix, I omitted because he only played one season for the Lions. It's Anquan Bolden. 2016, 16 games, 67 catches, 584 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Would he change anything?
One year doesn't sum up a decade. Like, he doesn't have the longevity. Great name, and I loved him, but he can't be in this conversation.
I mean, you were talking about thinking we didn't have many slot guys earlier, but we completely forgot Amendola, I guess. He did all right, even though I was never his biggest fan. But
1 year guy in this era, though, as well.
Was it just 2019? I swear it was 2018 and 19. But...
Can't we just have 4 receivers and get rid of a tight end? We don't care about tight end.
2019 and 20
just play spread. Just play the spread option. Let's have 4 receivers.
Yeah, can't we play one of them as like a tailback or something? Just we don't need to be a receiver as well.
We wouldn't be Lions fans if we didn't have to go through the pain of listing out these tight ends.
Well, put it this way, this is one of the few positions where we're going to argue over who gets in. So
true.
Right. Okay. I'm willing to pass on Marvin Jones then. That's it. So we'll go Calvin and Kenny.
What? So okay, I give you my 3: Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, which is not close for me.
You said that before I started. I thought you weren't going to pick him.
No. So we've got Calvin Johnson in on 3, and then Tate, Jones, and Golladay all on 2 each. Now I'm going.
Oh, hang on. No, wait. Why's Jones got 2? I didn't pick him.
Ryan picked him. I picked him.
Did Ryan pick him?
Yeah.
I say it's my favorite, my second favorite player.
Yeah. So I went for Tate, Johnson, and Jones. You went for Johnson, Jones, and Golladay, and Ryan went for Johnson, Tate, and Golladay. Johnson, Jones, and Golladay.
I just want to put my hands up and say we have nothing against Nate Burleson at all.
Nate's great, but he was a step below all of these guys in terms of the affection on the field. Off the field, Nate has a great shout, but
All right, so Calvin's in, and then how about, for the other three, we've only got 2 votes each. We have to like re-vote now, and we've only got 2 votes each, so you can only pick 2 of these 3.
But that's what we did before, and we're just going to pick the same. Pick one guy. Pick one guy. That's better. You only get 1 vote from these 3.
Oh wait, just pick. All right, pick one guy who you don't want in.
No. Pick the guy you do want in, and that will get it down to just pick one guy that you want in, and that will decide it. And
this isn't fair. All right, I'm gonna put Kenny was one of ours. He was a rookie draft pick of ours. Came through. I'm picking Kenny.
All right, Ryan.
I'll
Jones?
stick with Marvin. Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell. Okay.
And you're gonna pick Golden, aren't you? Come on, we're losing the audience here probably by now. So we.
Okay, I'm going Marvin, and that means that Tate hasn't got a vote, so it's Johnson, Jones, and Golladay.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Okay, let me just highlight that, because otherwise I'm not going to remember.
Let's just hope this doesn't get out to the wider masses.
Oh, they'll kill us. No Tate is going to absolutely sink the podcast. Right, tight ends. Only one you have to pick here. Only one. So, don't go choosing 2. Brandon Pettigrew.
I don't think there's 2 to pick.
Brandon Pettigrew, 2009 to 2015. Eric Ebron, 2014 to 2017. TJ Hawkinson, 2019 to present, but 2019 only. And let's not forget, not Hawkinson's best year, right?
This is Pettigrew. Pettigrew was actually good. I mean, not just saying it because TJ only played 1 year and Ebron was the biggest bust ever, but Pettigrew actually did really well. I think, what was it, 2011 to 2013, he had over 2,000 yards, averaging about 5-6 touchdowns a year. That's not bad. When you're playing with Calvin and he's hogging all your targets and getting all your yards, they aren't bad stats to put up. So, yeah, Pettigrew well earns his place in there.
Back then, we weren't tight end heavy. Like you say, we are tight end heavy now because we rely on them. Back then, we didn't rely on the tight end. So he's still got a good look and he did good work. So it has to be Pettigrew.
And it's a shame what could have been because we let Tonyan go. We let Logan Thomas go. Could have been some more good ones on here.
Isaac Nauta says Quirky Zerky. Joseph Farrier says Dan Pask.
Big Joseph Farrier.
Hang on, Isaac Nauta. We're not going for guy most, partition between first team and practice squad.
So Pettigrew is the pick. 85 games started, 93 total, 486 targets, 301 receptions, 2,965 yards, almost 10 yards per catch, and 17 touchdowns in his career. You're right, there was a 4-year stretch, 2010 to 2013, where he got over 2,000 yards in that 4-year stretch. So quite impressive, really. I mean, 3 first-round picks we're talking about here, so it's a bit rough. But
it doesn't sound good, does it, when you say it like that?
It does not sound good, but either guy. So tight end is all sewn up. Now we get into the difficult business of the offensive line. Left tackle, Jeff Backus, 2001 to 2012, but only 3 years in this range. Riley Reef, 2013 to 2016. Taylor Decker, 2016 to present. And I think there's going to be a temptation for recency bias here with Taylor Decker. I'll put that out there now. But what do you guys make of these guys?
Backus. I mean, sorry, go on, Ryan.
I liked Riley Reif, even though he wasn't here long. Like I say, he had all the potential of the world. Like I say, he could have been part of something really good, but he didn't live up to it. Like I say, and eventually was shipped out. So I'm tempted to say Decker because Reif, like I say, it didn't end very well.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Decker as well. He played the longest amount in the stretch. So Backus joint most with Reef. 4 years for Reef, 4 years for Decker. I think Decker's play was higher in that stretch. Let's not forget, though, that Decker did have moments where people were saying he's not living up to it.
His first few years, he was bad.
I don't know about bad.
Well, he wasn't
his rookie
good.
year was excellent. His rookie year was very, very good, and then he got injured in year 2.
But we've had the last couple of years where he's been really good in the 20s, not in
Yeah.
the 10s. His 10s, he was, I mean, because we were having the big argument before his big extension. We were split on whether we wanted to keep him or not, especially pay him top left tackle money. Now it's obviously justified, but I mean, Bacchus was here for 11 years and played really well as a left tackle in some diabolical teams, but still stood out as a great player. And he's still out a few years in to be able to make himself worthy of it. I just don't know if Taylor's Yeah, I don't know. I'm still going Bacchus, but I'm been outvoted, so there we go.
You have been outvoted. Taylor Decker is the guy at left tackle. Left guard, Rob Sims, 2006 to 2014. Lakin Tomlinson, 15 to 16. Glasgow, 16 to 19, but 19 was played at right guard. Joe Dahl, 16 to 20.
Well,
Ryan,
not Lakin Tomlinson.
Do I have to vote? It's
What? Glasgow?
Glasgow's my guy.
Best of a very mediocre bunch.
Yeah, like I say,
I mean,
yeah, bunch.
I don't get all the people saying that Glasgow should have been paid here like what he was in Denver. He wasn't that good for me. Not on the contract. I mean, he's on like 10, 12 million there or something, isn't he? He was on a fair whack of money, and I don't think he was worth that personally. And I think I've been proven right because he's been injured since he's been there, and he's not played very much.
Well, he's been injured because of a health issue rather than an actual legit injury, though, right? Or did he get injured as well? I thought he had like
he got injured.
He
got injured.
Okay.
But but again, there's no one else really to vote for, so yes, I'll go with Glasgow reluctantly.
It's annoying how quickly they gave up on Lakin Tomlinson because I'm pretty sure he's turned into a force on the 49ers line, and that pisses me off every day.
If Hank Fraley had have got his hands on him, then probably would have, because you've seen what Fraley's done with guys who've walked in off the street. A guy with Tomlinson's ability, he would have created a monster out of him, and no need to pay Big V then. But it's all what ifs and if nots. Lakin could just have easily as busted again.
So they did cross over. He was the assistant offensive line coach 2018 and 2019. So their paths did cross. He wasn't the senior offensive line coach at the time, though. Ant, you didn't give a guy. You didn't give a name.
I did. I said I'd reluctantly vote for Glasgow. But
we all settled.
Yeah, I'm settling. I'm not voting for. I'm just
I'm enthusiastically going for Glasgow. I was pounding the table for him to get paid. I wouldn't have paid him as much as he did get paid. That's not the same as saying I didn't think I wanted to keep him here. I definitely did want to keep him here. If he was paid the Vitae money, I wouldn't have blinked.
Vitae's better. I'm saying that now. Vitae's better.
I would say that I would take Vitae now over Glasgow now. The first season that Vitae was here and Glasgow went, Glasgow was definitely better. Because Vitae was injured. Well,
if they're both if you take their fully healthy play into account, I'm still picking Vitae out of them two.
Fair enough. Here's one that's going to be interesting, and it's the centre position, a position of relative strength for the Lions over the years. They had Dominic Raiola, 2001 to 2014, so 5 seasons in this stretch. Travis Swanson, 2014 to 2017. And Frank Ragnow, 2018 to present. So Ragnow only 2 years, Swanson 4 years, Raiola 5 years in this stretch.
This is hard.
This is really hard.
I'm picking Raiola, not because I hate Frank, but Frank's he's got 2 years in there, and his latter 2 years have been the elite ones. He obviously took his time to find his feet in the league, but Raiola, 14 years, never injured. He played an inordinate amount of games. I think he played isn't he the only Lion to ever play over 200 games? I mean, there's not a special teamer. I know some
apart from
special teamers have. Yeah, apart from the special teamers, I'm pretty sure he's like the only outfield guy who's not a special teamer to play 200 games for the Lions.
Didn't we just go through stats and say he played more than 200 games? Surely.
No, he played.
He played 185, I think it was.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Raiola he's the only guy who's played over 200 games that's not a special teamer for the Lions. But
I'm picking Raiola. Raiola was that pinnacle of consistency.
To have that longevity in the league at a position, and let's not forget he was quite a violent player. He got called for a lot of offenses, hitting players late, throwing tantrums. He was a violent player, and to be healthy his entire career playing that style says something. And again, played on a lot of really, really bad offensive lines, but he was a pinnacle of excellence. I think 1 year he graded 64 by PFF. Everything else is 70 or above. He was a model of consistency here, and I love Ragnow to bits. And Ragnow's already won the 2020s center. We're not going to have a better center than Ragnow ever, but this year was that decade was Raiola's.
I realised I didn't give you Taylor Decker's or Graham Glasgow's career stats at Detroit, so I will just run them down quickly before I give my final say on centre position. Taylor Decker, so far in his Lions career, 80 games, 3 targets, 3 receptions for 15 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sorry, that makes me laugh. Graham Glasgow, his Detroit career, played 62 games and recovered a fumble. And Raiola, 219 games played, forced 2 fumbles with 5 fumble recoveries and 2 tackles in his career. For me, it's Raiola 100%. Did you go Raiola as well, Ryan? I missed it.
Yeah, he forced 2 fumbles.
Yeah, must have
probably
been on special
lost.
teams.
Either that or if from lost plays he forced a second fumble on a play.
Yeah,
it does happen occasionally.
Yeah, so 1 in 2010, 1 in 2014, according to Pro Football Reference. Quirky Zerky made a very good point to me as well that Ragnow was a left guard in year 1, so he only had 1 season at either position. So
that's actually true.
That kind of disqualifies him from this, really. So Dom Raiola it is, and we move on to the more difficult territory of right guard and right tackle. Right guard, Stephen Peterman. I actually don't know how that's said. 2006 to 2012, Larry Warford 2013 to 2016, TJ Lang 2017 to 2018 at right guard. I fancy this is a bit more difficult, boys. What do you reckon?
Larry Warford.
I'd probably pick Larry.
He was fairly consistent. TJ Lang was very up and down. Like I say, you got really good and you got really bad with him, and wasn't here all too long either.
So 2018. So who finished the decade at right guard? 2019. That'd be Dahl. Did Dahl play in at right guard?
Yeah, it was.
Dahl played in there.
No, it was Glasgow. Glasgow shifted over to right guard. Dahl.
Season
at left guard.
Yeah.
So,
okay, Larry. TJ Lang is also very expensive. Like I say, TJ earned a lot of money for what he didn't really sum up to. He didn't live up to it for me.
And he's a Packer, so bit of bias there against him.
Oh, I love TJ. He was a right.
I do, but he's still too much of a Packer for my liking.
Yeah, and the thing is about Lang is that he came in on a big contract with high expectations, and while he played well, he ultimately disappointed. He played worse than we were hoping he would. Warford was fairly consistent through his tenure, so he's the guy. He's definitely the guy.
Wasn't he one of Quinn's first high-profile signings? One of Quinn's many incredibly bad contracts. I'm pretty sure TJ was the very first, and we should have all started getting worried after that one.
Ash cheers and says, miss you guys on Twitch. Miss you too, Ash. We need to get you on sometime soon. Right. Finishing off the offense with the right tackle position. And this one is also a dumpster fire of epic proportions. Gosda Cherilus, 2008 to 2012. Adrian Waddle, 2013 to 2015. Rick Wagner, 2017 to 2019. Tyrell Crosby, 2018 to 2020, remembering that Crosby's really, really good year was 2020, and not in this stretch.
I think just because of how bad this is, though, it should be included as a help for us.
I feel like Cherilus. Wagner had so many. Wagner was injury plagued.
See, Green Bay Rick Wagner was actually pretty good when he went there. He decided he wanted to play well and be healthy, but here, I know not many people were worried. Certainly not like Glasgow when he left. Not many people were that upset. I mean, God, I don't even remember. I can't even remember Cherilus that well. I mean,
but that's a good thing. I feel like if I don't have too much bad to say about him, he can't have been that bad.
I mean, come on, there must have been like a 1-year guy we had in or something that could have.
But I've covered the whole stretch there.
Come on, chat, help us out.
Oh, 2016. I don't have anyone in 2016 right tackle.
Come on, can the chat help us out? Somebody, just give us a right tackle.
I can't remember Leandre Waddle to save my life.
Yeah,
I think we probably just kind of jettisoned it out our system, didn't we?
We did. It was Cherilus. Cherilus is the guy.
I'm not going to argue because it's just, you could just pick a name out of a hat and I'll agree with it.
Fair. Please, guys, don't forget, if you are watching along on YouTube, to give us a like on there, or if you can follow us on Twitch or subscribe, or all the fun stuff that you can do on there. Give us a rating if you're on the audio pod. We'd really, really appreciate your input. And we're going to do our little kind of recap show, me and Ant probably. I don't know if Ryan's free, but probably me and Ant after the show for 30 minutes. And if you like that format, if you've got any suggestions for us, we'd really love to hear from you. rawthelions1@gmail.com. Let's move on to the defense and defensive tackle, which actually I think is sneakily better than some of the other positions that we've had over the years. And Ndamukong Suh, 2010 to 2014. Corey Williams, 2010 to 2012. Nick Fairley, 2011 to 2014. Haloti Ngata, 2015 to 2017. Ashawn Robinson, 16 to 19. Damon Harrison, 18 to 19. 6 guys there, 2 spots available at DT.
Well, Sue's a lock in it.
This is surely Suh and Fairley here. That seems.
See, Ashawn Robinson had so much potential. He just was very unlucky. It really upsets me. He's played really well in LA, and I'm glad he won a ring. He should have been so much better. Like
so should Snacks. So should Snacks. I think, I would have had him in there, but for me, I don't know. Fairley and Suh just seem to work better. I'd have taken them to at any time since they left. Even to the point now, you'd be still like, I mean, obviously not now, but them back in their prime, they'd probably still both walk in this team.
We got Ngata at the wrong time because he was basically coming out of the league one day, like you say, he was in the twilight. I'd probably go with Fairley as the second guy.
So I'm going Suh and Ngata. He might have been in the twilight of his years, but the 2 years he gave us as a proper starter, 15 and 16, I thought he absolutely wrecked it from the middle. I thought he was an absolute hero. He was the first Lions player I ever tweeted at when he retired in 2018. Said to him, you're one of my idols. And, have a happy retirement. And he messaged me back and just said, thanks, man. And that was really cool to me. So I can't see past it. But I've been outvoted Suh and Fairley. Suh.
Oh, don't give us these, heartfelt stories and try and guilt trip us.
Hey, we got good people in this team. They may not have been good football players, but they were damn good people. And intangibles matter, man. Let's move on to the edge players, which is, Ant would say, as we were talking before the show started, not the best set of defensive end players we've ever had. Cliff Averill, 2008 to 2012, so only 3 years, 10, 11, 12 in the stretch. Kyle Vanden Bosch, 2010 to 2012, 3 years in the stretch. Jason Jones, 13 to 15. Zeke Answer, 13 to 18. And Romeo Okwara, 18 to present.
Do we have to pick anybody?
Two
can we not pick any?
When Averill left Detroit, things went wrong. We should have goddamn paid that man things went downhill very quickly. He was a menace.
You
So Cliff
could not
Averill
have
is a
convinced
total.
him to stay, though. You hear about what
No,
he
I
says
know.
about this team after. So he appears a lot on Sky Sports at the moment, talking with Neil Reynolds about how things were. And whenever he references the Lions, I just cringe because I think if we paid him $25 million a year, I'm not sure he would have stayed.
The backup is hard. Like I said, I'm not saying Ziggy because he just frustrated the life out of everyone. Like I say, he was incredibly injury prone and never lived up to the high draft pick, so I can't pick him.
No, and Van den Bosch was a straight out bust for what we, wanted to get him in for. He was another who'd had a good career elsewhere, came in and did precious little for us.
Romeo has to be just the 1 year we've seen, doesn't it?
And that wasn't even in the 10s. That was in the 20s. He balled out in 2020, didn't he?
He balled out in 2020, yeah.
He was a slow starter with this. That's what I mean. This is where we need the extra. Screw it. Let's just play with a 13-man offense and an 11-man defense. I mean, I'm just trying to think of 1 year guys. If we got anyone. I mean, hang on. When did we have? Was Everson 19 or was he 20?
You can't have a 1 year guy.
Of course, I can with this lot. No, we absolutely can have a 1 year guy with this lot.
Ryan, I'm going to push you for
when was Anthony Zettel?
Zettel was in this stretch, but he had one good year for the Lions.
That's fine. I'll take him. Yep, vote.
He did get 6.5 sacks, I think, in that year, didn't he?
Let me just double check. I'm
sure he got he was pretty good in that 1 year. I think he got 7 sacks. I
wonder how they could go an entire decade without addressing it. I mean, I guess Sue was just that good on the interior that you just didn't notice that the pass rush was atrocious because he just would trample anything on the interior. But it's been horribly neglected for one of the most premium positions.
Is it a bad? Oh, it's a bad sign that I can't spell because I can't spell Zettel. There we go. E-L, not L-E. Detroit.
I'm just trying to think. Is there any other 1 year guys who were in who did all right? I mean,
so Zettel played 29 games for Detroit, started 16, 1 forced fumble and a fumble recovery, 7.5 sacks.
That'll do. He gets my vote.
I think most of them sacks came 1 year.
Yeah. That'll do.
Hang on, I can't even spell his.
If this was 2020s, we'd put Romeo in, obviously, but not that first year or two.
Right. So, Ryan, you're going for Averill and Zettel.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
I'm going for Averill and Answer. I don't care that he didn't quite live up to it. You're taking Zettel on the basis that he got 6.5 sacks as an undrafted guy. Answer got 3 consecutive seasons to start his career. 8 sacks, 7.5 sacks, 14.5 sacks, then had a down year 2016, and then returned with 12 sacks in 2017. In that 5-year stretch, he got 44 sacks. I'm sorry, I know he was an injury disappointment, but in his first 5 seasons, he only missed 2, 5, 7 games. 5 seasons. I'm sorry, I do not understand how you cannot put him in. I know you wanted more, but that's so much more than we've ever had at the defensive end position in the last 15 years.
It is what it is.
14.5 sack season.
I feel like we have to, otherwise we'll lose all our credibility. If someone sees this and sees us put Zettel in, we'll probably get laughed at.
At least we know these guys. At least we know these guys. It's easy to just list off the popular ones, but at least we know the not so popular ones.
Everyone remembers Zettel because he's the one that tackled the tree and he uprooted the tree. But we'll take Answer because we have to look professional.
Okay.
You going with that as well, Ant?
Well, I'm outvoted now, so all
right.
We'll pick the popular one, but
Quirky Zerky does put in another good name, which is a one that I actually did consider but didn't put in, which is Kerry Hyder. He played one season.
Ah.
He played one.
I got
full season.
8.5 sacks and then tore his ACL. Didn't he?
8 sacks in 2016, but otherwise 1 game in 15 and 7 games in 18. Only 1 sack in that third year. So 2017 was out completely. So
would you say it was a terrible decade for edge
Yeah.
rushers?
That was an awful
it's
position.
a terrible decade having a 14.5 sack season player. Terrible. Right, let's move on to linebacker.
No matter how much you try, you're not going to convince us otherwise. Injuries did for him. And, the best ability is availability.
Devin Taylor. Apparently we're forgetting Devin Taylor.
Oh, that was the guy from... Oh, God, what's it?
I don't know.
No. The name rings a bell.
It doesn't
He's
ring a bell to me.
rotational.
Yeah, I don't think he was a starter, does he?
I mean,
Hey, at least we're getting the people are offering.
it doesn't come up on Pro Football Reference at all.
All right, well,
But anyway,
I think we've picked, so we'll move on.
We've picked. We'll move on. Linebackers. So you need to decide whether we're going with 3 or 2 linebackers. I think we should go for 2, even though I want to go for 3. When you have a look at the cornerback room, you'll see why. Linebackers: DeAndre Levy, 2009 to 2016. Stephen Tulloch, 2011 to 2015. Tahir Whitehead, 2014 to 17. Jared Davis, 2017 to 20. Devon Kennard, 18 to 19. Those are your
Levy and
linebackers.
Levy and Tulloch.
And we let Van Noy go. And this is what we had. It was like...
To hear Whitehead racked up hundreds of tackles, but it was an absolute liability and everything else. And he still does that now. Like I say. And I will settle on Levy and Tulloch was what I remember being as a Lions fan. That was the defense I grew up on. And they were absolute animals.
I would agree. But yeah, I'm still pissed we let Van Noy go. I don't know how we screwed that up, but we did. And we paid for that in the latter half of the year.
I'll overlook the fact we even listed Jared Davis.
So Dan is making the case that we should go 3 linebackers because Terrell Austin played a 4-3 at the back end of this.
When we got rid of Devin Kennard, because I remember very well, he had back-to-back 7-yard sack seasons, and he was the best linebacker on the team. And he has carried that on in Arizona. He's been pretty good. I was very upset when he left because he was that linchpin we had. But I don't think that's enough to give him all decades, so I'll stay with 2 backers, me personally.
Right, we're gonna choose the scheme for ourselves, even though the decade may not ask for it. Levy and Tulloch, unanimous decisions at linebacker. Cornerback, we're now picking 3 of these guys. And I guess we could go for 3 safeties. We could go for 3 safeties, but that would be really unlikely, I think, in this era. So I think
I don't think anyone played.
It's not much. Again, defensive backs is lacking.
Yeah, but at least we'd be happy with 3 of the safeties.
Oh yeah.
We're not going to be happy with 3 of this lot. Cornerbacks: Chris Houston, 10 to 13. Alfonso Smith, 10 to 12. Rashawn Mathis, 13 to 15. Slay, 14 to 19. Nevin Lawson, 2014 to 2018. Those are your guys.
Ugh.
Pick 3.
Right. So
can we'll get the obvious one out of the way first.
Slay, yeah.
Okay.
I don't really want to pick 3 of these. Alfonso Smith was okay. Chris Houston wasn't bad. I'll pick Chris Houston as the second one.
Okay, you got a 3rd pick.
See, I remember. I know the safeties, and I like some of these safeties. Actually, I
do too. Slay is unanimous. I don't think that's a shock.
Yeah. Nevin Lawson.
See, Nevin was all right. He got quite a few pass breakups in his time.
Solid slot corner. Yeah.
Nevin Lawson for me was the number 2.
I'll put Nevin in. I would put Nevin in.
I'd put him at nickel. I'll put Houston and Slay outside.
Okay, Ant, who's your number 3? I'm Rashawn Mathis for number 3.
Don't make me.
Do it.
Oh yeah, but see, I was going to say Alfonso Smith, because I didn't mind him. So he's one of like the earliest guys I remember doing this. This is very, very early. But
what years was Dre Bly? When did he retire?
He might have been in the early 10s.
Because if he is, I'm putting him in.
Dre Bly, Lions 03 to 06, and then 2010 on the practice squad. Does that qualify him?
No, that doesn't.
No.
Unfortunately, that doesn't count. But no, yeah, I'll stick to my 3.
I don't.
I know my safeties.
Right, so One Pride 40 and Brandon Kerr have Slay, Houston, and Mathis, both of them.
Oh, screw it. I'm going to go for Mathis.
Right, so we've gone for Slay, Lawson, and Mathis, no Houston.
I can live with that. Mathis was very long in the tooth, but do you know what? The room around him was really young, and we were not in a good position. And he held his own. I swear that guy was like 37 when we had him.
I don't know. There may be just some more recency bias. We never know some with me, Gus. But I never thought. I'd never like hear the name and go, "Oh my god, he was bloody awful." I never say.
Oh no!
I always think he was. I always think
moments.
I always think he was. Yeah, but you say that with you can say that with everyone, I guess. But I always think he was fairly steady. So
we agreed that cornerback was the worst position of the entire decade, because I have said that was the worst position of the whole decade. That is dreadful.
So we've had.
Who did we end the decade with? I mean,
we ended the decade with Slay and Oruwariye, 2019, I think.
Coleman, didn't we as well? He ended the decade.
Oh god.
So,
I mean, was Coleman's first year that bad?
The first half of the first year was really good, wasn't it? And then it just half it, yeah.
Yeah.
We've had.
It was like. Go on.
We've had a really good question, actually. Hang on, let me just check something. Yes, sorry, Dan, you are absolutely right in the chat. I won't reference what you said, but anyway. The question we've had is, can you qualify Quandre Diggs as a corner? Even though we think of him as a safety, he converted from corner to safety and did play corner in his first 2 years as a Lion, I think.
How many games did he play? If he only played a couple of games, then no.
He played half his career at Detroit at corner, I think. It's hard. So let me check PFF and see what they say the positional breakdowns is, because I think this could be a way out for us.
So I take it we're not voting T's in.
You wash your mouth out, son.
I mean, corner would be a lovely one for an all-decade bus team, wouldn't it? There is so many guys in there.
I saw a report today, I can't remember what, the 3 ex-Lions players who have nearly done in the league. Tees Table's number 1. He will be in the XFL next year.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, he's a safety in Arizona, I think.
Oh,
he went to the Bears as a safety. He played a little bit. I think he's now on the Cardinals, but he's not even on the depth chart.
Right, so Quandre Diggs, rookie season, played 415 of his 585 snaps at slot corner, 37 at wide corner, 19 in the box, 9 on the D-line, none as a free safety. 2016, sophomore year, he played, if I can navigate to the end of this, 506 snaps, 395 at slot corner.
He's a corner.
2017.
Yeah, but thing is, are we going to screw ourselves on safeties if we move him?
So he started transitioning 2017. 900 snaps, just over, half at slot corner, a quarter at free safety, and then he was a free safety from there on. So first 2.5 years at corner, the next 3.5 years at safety. Majority of the time he was a safety in his career, but in this decade, I think he just about edges it as a corner.
I feel like that's cheating.
Yeah,
I'm going to stick with who I am because I don't have him as a safety either.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like that's cheating. I'm gonna stick with who I've got.
All right, okay. Let's go to strong safety, and obviously the lines may be blurred with a few of these guys. So if you disagree, let me know.
One Pride 40, tees to ball was worse than Nevin Lawson, and it ain't close.
Yeah, it's not close at all.
That's not even a fair argument. Nevin Lawson was actually half decent. Tees never was.
Lawson gave away a lot of defensive pass interference, but he was on the field.
Wait, I don't think there are any. I don't think there are any second round picks from this decade that are anywhere near this team.
No.
Let's just put it that way.
Right, strong safety. Amari Spavey, 2010 to 12. James Ahedlibo, 14 to 15. Tavon Wilson, 16 to 19. Quandre Diggs, 15 to 19. Diggs, I think, could easily go free safety or strong safety here. And also, I think Tracy Walker could also fit into strong safety, but I've got him in at free safety.
Are we just picking one here?
One strong safety.
Diggs.
Ia Digbo. He was a beast. He was a hammer.
You got Ia Digbo?
Yep.
Over Diggs?
Yep.
Right, you're outvoted. Quandre Diggs, strong safety.
It ain't Spivey. Spivey, no, I don't think Spivey ever saw
Tavon Wilson, special teamer as well. Like I say, I've never felt that much impact of Tavon Wilson on the field. I felt like he was a core of the team.
I liked Wilson a lot, but and Hegbo, I really, really liked him. But come on,
I mean, I guess if we're truly thinking about this, are we remembering Diggs too fondly, or
no?
I mean, because I feel like he did, and obviously we were upset when he left, but he did really break out in Seattle. I mean, really break out there. But
I was only upset Diggs left because that did end. Like I said, that led to Slay leaving. I wasn't that upset to see him go because the fifth round pick we got for Diggs, we turned into Oro Warrior.
Did we?
I'm pretty sure we did.
No, we didn't. We turned that into Jason Huntley.
Yeah.
And then we traded him before we cut him before the season even started. Well, we just lost Quinn before that and all. So you lost Quinn and you lost Diggs. That annoyed me.
All the personality went out the room at that point.
All the good players went out the room.
Yeah, let's talk about that free safety room then. Because these are three guys I want on my team. Luis Delmas, 9 to 13. Glover Quinn, 13 to 18. Tracy Walker, 17 to present. Those are three guys I want on my team.
I really love Louis Delmar, but it's got to be Quinn. As a locker room leader, as a player on the pitch, this guy led by example. And it's not because we've had him on the podcast before. It is literally, I think he's the best player out of a lot of them.
Quinn is my favourite Lion of the whole decade.
You know, I think out of everyone we've left, I think out of everyone we've left out of this team, I think Delmar would be the one, maybe apart from the receivers, that would upset me the most that we've left out, but for good reason.
So there's a great group of guys in the second tier of this. I know that we've kind of bemoaned having to pick starters, but we haven't picked Reggie Bush. We haven't picked Golden Tate. We haven't picked Ebron, and I know that he was awful for drops, but there were periods where I was convinced he was going to be the guy because his play was good in parts. It's just he left so badly that it's left such a sour taste in the mouth that we forget that there was some good in there as well. We haven't put in Swanson or Ragnar. We haven't put in Wagner, who was good in part and actually wasn't as injured in the Lions as you might expect. Played most of his games. TJ. We haven't put in Tracy Walker or Louis Delmas. We haven't put in Devon Kennard, who did really well the back end of his career with us. Aquara isn't in there. Vanden Bosch, Ashawn Robinson. There's a list of guys that I really like in this sort of not quite good enough to make the team. I know that's really bizarre, but there we go. Right, special teamers. Jason Hanson, 92 to 2012, but only 3 seasons in this era. Matt Prater, 14 to 20.
Jason Hanson. Patricia, Matt just wasn't consistent. From 50, great. Below 50, he was a liability at times.
I said this before we let him go. I think when we let him go, it was the correct time to do so. Because
he was expensive.
Your special teams are that critical. You know, when we let him go, we're not in a critical situation. We're not winning games or needing to win games to get in the playoffs. You know, we're rebuilding, and it's going to be a few years before we do. So you've got to sort your special teams in, because Matt will be too old by the time we're getting into the playoffs and playing big games. And like Ryan said, he was diminishing within 50. And you need to get your long-term future at special teams sorted to be competitive when you're going to be competitive. So I agree with the decision there, but I say I still love Matt to bits. But Hansen's a Lions legend, an absolute Lions legend, and never ever ever let this team down. Neither did Matt, but Hansen did it over more time.
So I'm just bringing up the stats now because I just want to have a look. I'm going for Prater. The main reason being Hansen is an all-time Lion, but he's an all-time Lion of the 90s and the noughties. He had 3 seasons in this era, and he missed half the 2010 season. So Prater, let me give this to you guys. Prater made, in his Lions career, all in the 2010. No, sorry, all but 1 year in the 2010s. And the down year he had was the 2020 season. So that is depressing the career stats, most of which were better in the 10s. For Detroit, he played 107 games. He made 179 of 212 field goals. That's 84.4%, and made 96% of extra points. He was perfect from 20 to 29, 48 of 48. He missed 47 of 51 from 30 or to 39, 44 of 59 from 40 to 49, so he missed 15. But then he only missed 14 from 50 plus, 38 of 52, 84.4 career percentage. Jason Hansen.
I don't think that's very good. Those middle ranges where you said he missed the kicks
and you're using
really hurt.
And he was missing some big kicks in his later years.
Yeah.
And he was making big kicks, but it's those, you don't want to have to rely on a kicker who's kicking from 50 yards out all the time. We were just such a bad team that it was good that we had a long-range kicker. But ideally, you want the kicker who's in the money within 40 because that's where you're kicking from because your team's decent. So, it's situations and times that you're in here. It's different. And plus, yeah.
So Jason Hansen's career field goal percentage was lower than Prater's at the Lions. 82.
We're not going on stats here. I'm going on skill. I'm not going with a recency bias here. I do remember Hansen back in the day, and I like him as a kicker better. I really do.
Okay, so Hansen it is then. I'm outvoted 2-1, and that's fine. You got to go with the franchise legend, and that's absolutely fine. For these next 3, I only have one name, and if you want to introduce anyone, I will entertain it. But I don't see anyone worthy here.
Well, we only have one long snapper, didn't we?
Sam Martin is the punter, 13 to 19. The other people in this era only ever played 1 season, so I did not include them.
Yeah. Sam Martin was very, very good. We just didn't want to pay him. He wanted too much money.
I couldn't even name you another punter from the 2010s. Off the top of my head.
Yeah. All right. Long snapper Dom Mulback.
Who was on when he left?
Right.
You can't even argue those positions.
I'm trying to wonder who replaced Martin. Who replaced Martin when he left? Fox was it? There was a gap between him and.
Yeah, there was a gap.
Was it that Australian guy? Was it?
No,
Sipos never played first team. It was Jack Fox. Oh, was it? Oh, yeah.
That was his rookie season. 16 games played, 60.
Wait, in 2019?
2020. Sam Martin played 19.
22. Oh.
Yeah, Jack Fox, 60 kickoffs, 19 touchbacks, 61.2 kickoff average, 59 punts, 49.1 yards per punt average, long of 67.
Well, I think in 10 years, when we're doing the 2020 show, Fox is already in it, probably. Right, there are a few guys who've already nailed their place down for this decade, and we're barely into it.
So here's one that might be controversial. I don't know if you can think of anyone better. Kick returner, punt returner, Jamal Agnew, 2017 to 2020. So only 3 years in the stretch. Does anyone want to?
He was fantastic.
Someone else.
Yeah. He was good. He was good. I couldn't really even name you many of the other kick returners we've had in that time. So that says a lot. You still remember Agnew, even as
I'm pretty sure he had like 4 touchdowns. I think for like the last 2 years, he led the league in return touchdowns before he left.
I'm just looking through now to see if I can see any kick returners worthy of it. Andre Roberts had 2 touchdowns.
Andre Roberts was all right.
He's still pretty good now as well.
Yeah. So that's 2016. He had 2 punt return touchdowns.
We could have them both then. He could be a punt returner. We could have Agnew as the kick returner. They're different things.
It could happen. Stranger things have happened. Right. We're going to go with Jamal Agnew. I don't think there's going to be too much argument about that.
So how many games do we think this team would win? If this team was to play today all in their prime, how many games do you think we could win?
Let me run down the team.
It's a playoff team.
Let me run down the team. Stafford, Joyke Bell, Calvin Johnson, Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, Brandon Pettigrew, Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, Dominic Raiola, Larry Warford, Gosda Cherolis. And Dominican Sue, Nick Fairley, Cliff Averill, Ezekiel Answer, DeAndre Levy, Stephen Tullock, Rashawn Mathis, Darius Slay, Nevin Lawson, Quandre Diggs, Glover Quinn, Jason Hanson, Sam Martin, Dom Muhlbach, Jamal Agnew.
Thinking about it though, that offensive line is not good. Not on that right-hand side, it's not good.
It's not the best.
You've got to be winning 10, 11 games though, I think. I still think that's
Joyke Bell's not a burner running back who's going to put up 1,500 yards in a season, and that strength is built on your defense. There, you are
passing attack as well.
Yeah, because
you're going to pass people to death, aren't you?
Oh yeah, but then with Fairley and Sue and that lot in there, you're going to be able to stop the run quite handily. Yeah. And then you've got a load of ball hawks in the backfield to be able to, you've got Slay in there, you've got Diggs in there, you've got Quinn in there. You've got ball hawks aplenty to go after when you're stuffing the run. So I love the look of the defense actually, apart from the corners, but you can kind of get past that because your run defense is that good. So it takes the pressure off them.
Yeah, I'd say our current offense is better, but it's better than our current defense.
Oh yeah, our current offense is miles better than that. Apart from obviously Calvin, but I think in pretty much every other area, it's superior. No one Stafford.
So we've just had someone in the chat, Chris C. Shepherd, a first-time chatter. Thank you for joining along with us, man. He said, "Can you shoehorn in Golden Tate as one of the returners?" He spent 2 years returning a little bit. And when I say a little bit, he had 4 returns in 2017. And he had...
That is clutching at straws.
That is clutching a bit at straws. But in 2015, he had 46 returns, which was second to TJ Jones, who had 113. So I
feel horrible leaving him out, but we have been blessed with some good receivers this last decade.
Dan Pask says on the 53, can he be backup quarterback? Yes, he can. That's fine.
Well, yeah, someone's got to play a backup quarterback, and it's not the people we listed.
No.
You know what's been more sad? It's been reading some of these and looking at the ones who could have been but weren't. Ashawn, Snacks, there's so many guys who could have been it. Javid, if he'd stayed healthy, would be a running back to rival anybody. It's sad.
So we've had a question in from Brandon Kerr, who says, "Can you guys think of any other special teams or core special teams players who are top players? How do you feel about Don Carey?"
Oh, he was a legend, I suppose.
Or just special teamers in general.
Yeah, just core special teams players for the Lions in that era.
Miles Kilbrew. He'll come in the end of that. He'll come in the end of that era. He was fantastic on special teams. Won he 2018 and 2019? He'd get in.
I'm just gonna go back and see if I can. My knowledge, because we weren't doing this at that time, I'm really struggling to think of players who really contributed on special teams. So 2014, our top contributor per PFF was Jason Jones, the edge player that we passed on. Tahir Whitehead, number 2. Cassius Vaughan, number 3. Eric Ebron, number 4. 2015.
Remember Cassius Vaughan.
2015, Riddick, Copeland, Bell, Lawson, and Tahir Whitehead again.
Copeland, I think Copeland. Was he a linebacker? He was
Yeah.
one there. He was very good on special teams.
16, top players: Carey, Killebrew, Quinn, Copeland. I didn't realise that Killebrew was that early. I couldn't remember him.
Yeah, we had him 3 or 4 years.
He'd been on for quite some time. But again, it's like trouble. We've had that many great special teamers, but your special teamers need to be good players for your roster as well, and just too many of them haven't been.
Still played special teams now in Pittsburgh. Like I say, if you can play special teams really well, you can make millions and millions of dollars. And he is that poster boy for special teams, and I'll give him full credit for that.
Just looking at the rest of these guys, not really anyone to shout about in 2018. 2019, Jalen Reeves, Mabin, Miles Killebrew, D. Virgin, Tavon Wilson, Steve Longer, Logan Thomas. Yeah, so Don Carey, perhaps the best of the bunch, followed by Miles Killebrew. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
I think that wraps it up. Boys, our all-decade team. Is there anything else you guys want to get off your chest at this point?
I'm glad that decade's gone, if I'm perfectly honest. Because there's some rough positions there.
Yeah, it just kind of goes to show that we were very badly mismanaged. And you know, when edge is one of the most important positions in football, and the best we can put up is a guy who was known for getting crocked by injuries, and then a 1-year guy, it's just like, yeah, you've got something not quite right there. But I think it shows that, you know, I think the good thing it shows is that people just go, oh yeah, Detroit, they're the same old all the time. Well, this definitively shows that it is not. You know, that last decade shows that our ability to draft, to develop players was awful. I mean, absolutely atrociously awful. We could not develop players to save a life unless it was the first round guys. But outside of that, your late round guys, no one really ever progressed. No one ever did out. Whereas in the last couple of years, we've seen players develop more than they ever have in their lives. And, you know, more than we've ever seen before. So it shows that ownership is vastly different now. So you only have to go back into the last decade to see the improvements that we've made.
And Brandon would make the case, so he's saying to me, the previous decade was more fun compared to the decade before that, which was absolutely horrendous.
Who's your quarterback? Joe Harrington, Chad Pennington,
John
Kitner. Oh, God.
Am I just saying that? I think Kitner's one of those who people sort of have an affinity for, don't they? He wasn't that bad, but he still wasn't great.
Quirky Zerky says, well, the decade of Dan Campbell is upon us, and I think that's a great way of looking at this. Right.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next decade, 1 in 10 years, because it'll be a lot more fun to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Time to bring this one to a close. We've been going a long time. If you've been listening to us all the way through, we really, really appreciate you guys with us reviewing this and the interview with Logan as well. Any questions, any comments, get them in the comments box below, or you've got our email address as well, I said earlier, but rawthelions1@gmail.com. This time next week, Monday, June 20th, we've tentatively got in at the moment, subject to change, I think, but we are going to be talking about the OTAs and minicamp, review and chat on the themes that have come out from that, and we're going to go into the depths of the off-season, talking about these themes all the way through, so how that might have affected things right now. It looks like the bottom of the wide receiver chart is coming to play, knowing their careers are on the line here. So Cephas, Benson, Pimpleton, balling out in camp, apparently. You know, Benson actually has been showing up. You see very favourable reviews. So can he make an unlikely push for this roster? Well, I know that the GM's certainly going to be hoping that that's the case, considering he's traded for him. We'll talk about that and a lot more this time next week. Don't forget to follow us on our socials, Raw the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's going to be an article coming out shortly, hopefully, I think, by Ant. I've got one to write as well, still on Jameson Williams. I'm halfway through, but that's rawthelionsuk.com. Subscribe, rate us 5 stars, all the bits and pieces. Quirky Zerky says, Raiden at No Decaf is live at the moment. I will absolutely make that happen now. But for you guys watching the audio show or listening to the audio show. Thank you very much. Let's go Lions. One pride.
One pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.
Right, let's. We're still live on thing, but just thought I'd do that for the audio pod. Let's go and raid Chris Buffett.
Who are we raiding? Oh, Chris.
Yeah, no decaf, baby.
Is Ryan on there yet?
I'm just loading.
Or is it just Chris
now.
on his own?
Oh, hang on. How do I do this? I don't know how I do this. And also, when the volume is on and I can hear myself speak, all manners of bad things are happening. Cheers, Quirky, for that. Appreciate you. Where do I go? Creator dashboard? Yeah, that looks
Isn't there
right.
just an option to raid?
Yeah, there is an option to raid, but I have to actually go to the right place. Stream manager.
I want Ryan to be in there so I can make Malik Willis jokes. Although, in fairness, no, I'm going to be nice to Ryan because he gave it to Adam earlier in the week, and rightly so.
Right, we are raiding with 3 people on Twitch.
Woohoo! Raid!
4. Right. You guys stick around and we should be raiding now.
The Brits are invading.
There we go. Right, I'm going to close the stream down now. Thanks, guys, for watching.